A wee bit late tonight, apologies. But is it not starting to feel a wee bit like things are starting to get a wee bit back to normal? Things are starting to open up just here and there, just a little bit. And that idea that we might manage to get together again and share whiskey face to face once more. I think it's the right time to start talking about gatherings, tasting groups, whiskey clubs, and what you could be doing where you are to get together and share whiskey. I'll see you in a minute. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the vPub. Welcome to another Thursday night. I hope you're all doing very well. It's impossible for me to follow Jim McEwen. Last week's show, last week's time with Jim, last week's event, if it's a good word for it, I think, was just amazing. I'm still kind of looking back on it and considering a lot of things that happened and a lot of things that we touched upon and spoke about. And it was tremendous. So we just can't follow Jim McEwen like that. But you can follow him. The community, everybody that's built this up to be what it is can follow him. And we can follow him by kind of continuing what Jim has done over the years, that getting people together, that evangelizing about whiskey and what it can do. Because even though we've got friends out there that are maybe whiskey curious, maybe they'll take some whiskey from you and enjoy it alongside you. Maybe they've not been bitten by the whiskey bug yet. Maybe you've got a friend, some budding people out there, or people local to you in the community, strangers that are friends that you've not quite met yet, that are ready to get together and have their life positively changed by whiskey for the way that it's happened for so many of us. I know that sounds a wee bit like we're over-egging things a bit and being a bit whimsical, but it's true. And if face-to-face, I ask any of you if whiskey's had a positive effect in your life, I think 99% plus of you would say absolutely, which is why you're here. It teaches us to taste and not drink, and it teaches us to slow down, and it teaches us to appreciate just this magical thing that it is. It teaches us through sensory experience what it is to be alive, all of these amazing things. And that's kind of why I started the channel originally, is because I couldn't keep it inside. I kind of wanted to share. I wanted to do that evangelism, that evangelizing thing. So that's what I'm going to try and do tonight. I've got some guests to join me. Somebody's going to come on and talk about the idea of a tasting group, just some buddies getting together. And that's my friend from the States, from California, my friend of 30 years, Bill. He was in the Magic of Isla video with me. He's going to come on and talk about his buddy tasting group that he started over lockdown. Then we'll talk to a brand new club. We'll talk to the Nottingham Whisky Club that was formed, much like the London Whisky Club was formed in the lounge here. The Nottingham Whisky Club is another UK-based club that was formed amongst the barflies that meet up here every Thursday. But they've actually got a fully functioning branded club now that they're building brick by brick. And this has all happened despite the pandemic. And then towards the end, I've got my local friend, Julie from Glasgow. You've met her a few times. She's been on for a few fun things on the vPub in the past. But tonight I'm bringing her in to talk about my favourite club, the amazing Glasgow Whisky Club, and talk about how it's endured over the years and how it's kept that balance, how it's kept going. I mean, it's like a metronome. The only thing that tripped it up was when the pandemic kicked in at first last year. It caught everyone by surprise, and it took them a few weeks to put something in place in order to make it move into a virtual space for a while. But that club just kind of ticks over month after month after month, surprising us month after month after month with just amazing nights and amazing whiskey. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk a wee bit about what's the difference between that kind of club and also other clubs that Julie's involved in as well that are either a business or connected to a business. So I hope that's going to be a fun topic for you. I hope it might inspire some of you guys to get kind of get your club face on, get out there, and just kind of share whiskey with people that are close by you. In the meantime, before we get our first guest in, I'm going to jump into the lounge here and welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. Wonderful to see you all joining me again for another wee Thursday night. I'll scroll back up a bit and catch some of the orange here, people that are tagging me Aquavitae. For anybody that's trying to get a hold of my attention on Facebook, the usual drill, I will get to those comments, but it's always after the live is finished. The comments that I'm interacting with tonight is actually here inside YouTube. I hope that's okay, but I appreciate you picking this up on Facebook. Hellswood is in. Always wonderful to see you, Helen. She's saying, evening to Roy, how you doing? I'm doing okay. I'm feeling much better than last week. Although I have to say that the head cold I had at the start of the stream last week, by Friday morning, it was completely gone. So I think Jim McEwen was able to cure a head cold as well. Marcus Kreitner is in. So good to see you, Max. Bruno Martins from Portugal is in. I'll maybe get a chance to mention you a wee bit later. Gal Sean is in. Good to see you. Pete Head Frank is in. Greg's Whiskey in Paris. Benny Fries is in. Good to see you back again, Benny. Luna Aaron is here as well from Germany. Wonderful, Luna. Scotch on the Bayou. Leanne, who's now doing her own YouTube content out there, Leanne. So good to see your face on YouTube as well. And it's wonderful to welcome you here inside the vPub. Lee Hosey, Haddington Whiskey is in. Good to have you, Lee. Gregor. Gregor is time for a dram. Gregor, he's done patrons will have seen some amazing artwork that he's done for the barflies, and I'm just working out a way to fathom a way to share that. But it's an amazing thing, Gregor, and I'd just like to say thank you very, very much publicly as well for what you did there. Inspired again by Jim McEwen's appearance last week. Graham Fraser is in. Always good to see you, Graham. Gregor Dykeman is in. That looks like a new name and another Gregor. Good to see you, Gregor. Good to welcome you in. Said hello, Aquavitae from the Netherlands. Welcome, my friend. It's wonderful to welcome you here. Gino Como, Gino is in. He's saying, hello, Roy. Always nice to spend a relaxing evening with you and the barflies. And Gino, it's always amazing to welcome you too. The other Portuguese Bruno is in as well. Bruno Mello. It's good to see you both in, folks. And this is kind of one of the things I'm going to talk about tonight. There's these stories, I shared it with patrons this week, is that there are people connecting here in ways that's wonderful to hear about and amazing to behold. One day I had Bruno from Lisbon join me as a patron supporter, and I got chatting to him. It was amazing. Thank you very, very much. And then the next day, Bruno from Lisbon in Portugal joined me as a patron supporter. Literally two people with almost the exact same name in the same city, and I had to put them in touch with each other. Now, obviously, pandemic has meant that it's difficult for them to get together, but they've already made contact. And that's happening all over the place. I'm like, all of these amazing stories, Gerben in Germany connecting with James in Sweden that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, although I didn't mention their names back then. I wasn't sure if they were okay with it, but they are okay with it, these people connecting. I've just had Brad, who was elsewhere in Canada, moving to Nova Scotia and reaching out to me and asking, hey, Roy, is there anyone else in Nova Scotia that you know of? Are there any other barflies out here? And of course, Jimmy Legg, the island, the man who talks about his isolation out there in Eastern Canada. Yes, he's in Nova Scotia. So this is happening all over the place. The London Whisky Club 2 years ago was formed by 4 barflies getting together in an office in London and saying, you know, what about we form a club? And the last I heard from the London Whisky Club, they were knocking on for close to 200 members. Amazing. So the appetite is out there for people to connect with whiskey more, for people to connect with each other over whiskey. But it's just sometimes needs a wee bit of inspiration, a wee nudge, something to help them do that. Fraser Bell, one of the Nottingham guys, is in as well. So good to see you, Fraser. Gerben is here. Good to see you, Gerben, as well. Matt Bishop, Whiskey Games. You've got a fantastic group going out on the east coast of Scotland, haven't you, Matthew? Jed Smith is here. Good to see you, Jed. Kresimir is in. Frank Falsgraf is here. And I already mentioned to Frank, good to see you both in. David Anderson is here. Dave Cummins is in from the States as well. I'm a living proof of your point, brother. Talk about a life change. Well, as long as it's a positive life change, Dave, that's what we're curious about, seeing how your journey develops after taking your first ever sip of whiskey at 50 years old. First ever sip of alcohol. Hoyt is saying Aquavitae suggestions to whiskey beginners to the intermediate level. That's a good one. That's a good one. The whiskey that I've got in my glass right now is not a beginner's whiskey. And it's not because it's high ABV. It's not even because it's expensive or difficult to get a hold of. It's not that expensive and it's not that difficult to get a hold of, but it's not a beginner's whiskey. I think you would put this in front of a beginner and ask them if they liked it or not, and they would just say, yeah, it's whiskey. This is one of these whiskies that you need to spend a bit of time with in order to taste a bit better. I've got a much more, a very similar one next to it, and I was contrasting them as I was getting ready. The one that's in the glass just now is a Flora and Fauna Teaninich. This is a 10-year-old at 43%. I'm hoping that focuses there for you. One of the Flora and Fauna releases from Teaninich up in the northeast, just north of Inverness, Alness, I think the town for Teaninich, if I remember well. And the one I'm contrasting it with is quite an expensive version, actually, which is another official Teaninich, but the special releases from 2017, which was, I don't know, for some crazy reason, the RRP is way up above £200 for that bottle, but you can get it on auction much cheaper. Look at some of the auction prices. A lot of them are softening. Some of them are even lower than retail. And about time too. Now, so this Teaninich is wonderfully complex. It's wonderfully subtle though. So it takes you a wee while to get your head around it. This Flora and Fauna one is probably the most kind of soft. There's not that much going on. And at 43%, it's already been kind of diluted just about enough. Thanks very much. Whereas this one, the 17-year-old, is at 55.9%, I think it is. That is 55.9, yes. This is amazingly, this is like potentially what this could have been at a much higher proof. So we're getting lots of the fizz and the grip and the effervescence on this. Lemon sorbet, lots of kind of, where this is quite soft and rounded, this has still got all the kind of texture and kind of jagginess, to use a Scottish word, still in place. I didn't know what to make of it when I first opened it, honestly. Like I say, it's not a beginner's whiskey, but as time's gone on, I'm really glad to have both of these, honestly. Good to have you in, Hoyt. Always good to have you, my friend. Jimmy Jazz is here as well. So is Martin Kirsch is saying, I'd love to connect with more whiskey lovers in my area. I feel slightly isolated in Dijon. Don't know why. There are whiskey lovers in France, but there doesn't seem to be a local club. Martin, that's when you put the word out there. I am happy to help you. The only other French guy that's jumping to mind is a barfly tonight. There are more. But it's Greg, he's in here tonight now. Of course, he's not in Dijon, he's in Paris. But you might be able to connect and help each other and connect other people that you know that's feeling the same as you. So there's Martin, he's in Dijon. And if you want to connect with Martin, give your details to me, send them in to me on email, whisky@aquavitae.com. Or you can join the Aquavitae Barflies Facebook page if you haven't already, and you can just simply put a post in there, put a big French flag or a landmark from Dijon in there, and ask if there are any barflies in your area. Now, I've missed some super chats already. Daniel Williams has bought me a dram to say, I now agree with you regarding more tubes. Building a tube wall as a background to new shelves, and some fell over. Now I have a huge gash on my head, so maybe join me for a pain management dram. Sorry to hear that, Daniel. Foodquig, he's been building up that back wall of tubes for years now, and I've gradually watched it kind of take over his backdrop. But I think he might be taping his together or gluing them in place. I'm sorry to hear, Daniel, but thank you very much for your virtual dram, and I hope that pain management dram is doing you well. Thanks, Daniel. Who else did I miss? Manx Hilton has bought me a dram as well. No comment, Manx, but it's wonderful to welcome you in, and thank you very much for your virtual dram. And Whiskey Novice Jim is in. Just a wee visit tonight, Roy. Catch you later, mate. Jim, it's always good to have you in as well. I see you've kicked off your Monday night live streams as well on YouTube, sharing your whiskey there, Jim, over in Northern Ireland. Fantastic. Jim, Manx, and Daniel, slant you to you all. Thank you. I got a lot of virtual drams in last week. Very, very generous of you all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy tickets for the event, the charity event that Jim McEwen was promoting last week. His last chat is on the 23rd of May, which is a Sunday at 9 o'clock BST, British time. I'm going to buy 3 tickets for 3 of the barflies in the lounge tonight. And I'm going to buy a bunch for patrons as well. But we'll be able to draw the public ones tonight here. And that's kind of how I'm kind of paying it forward after all the drams that we got last week, because that way you guys get to enjoy the last chat with Jim McEwen on Sunday the 23rd. And the money also goes to the SCAA, Scotland's Charity Air Ambulance. And Greg's Whisky Guide and Martin are already getting in touch with each other, which is amazing. And Richard Agnew is saying, checking in for Ontario, evening all. I'm going to put the Teaninich aside for a minute, because I've had a few messages. Well, recently I've only had 2, but it's enough to kind of prompt me to talk about this. And people are asking me to comment on Glendronach and their recent change in their presentation. And the way they've changed their presentation is simply that they've removed the statement from their packaging that says natural colour, non-chill filtered, and it's just blank instead. And the official line from them is in order to maintain flexibility, quality, consistency, clarity, stability. Fine. It's their whiskey. They can do what they like. And I've kind of suggested it's against the zeitgeist in the past. And I've said that it's a step backwards, which honestly it is. But recently in a vPub, I said we have to remember not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because what they're doing, potentially, we don't know what they're going to do yet, is what they're doing is maybe going to start to chill filter something like the 12-year-old, because it's at 43%, in order for them to sell higher volumes of it into markets that won't tolerate clouding, or they'll see clouding in a natural product as detrimental to their growth opportunities out there. And that's fine. But it's not. It's not. It's malt whiskey. And we need to start teaching the market that malt whiskey, when it clouds, is a sign of natural presentation. Anyway, it is frustrating a wee bit, but I'll tell you what's frustrated me a little bit more recently. And I suffer from it too, because when I heard about that, my first instinct was to charge out there and to stock up. This is all I have left of the Glendronach revival. There's a wee drop in the glass here, because I'm comparing it to what else is out there. What else is available? Well, right next to it, I've got the Glendronach in this glass here, and right next to it, almost the same colour, just a nudge lighter. You won't see it on camera, but this is just a tiny, tiny nudge lighter than the Glendronach, and that's the new Glenturret 12. This is one that I was very, very enthusiastic about at the turn of the year. You can see I've really got through this quite quickly, and I can tell you that right about here, behind that Annoch here, there's another bottle already waiting to be opened when this one is finished. This is expensive for a 12-year-old whiskey. It's £65, but I'm not comparing it to another 12-year-old. I'm literally comparing it side by side with a 15-year-old Glendronach, which is also £65. Forget about the age statement. If we start to compare whiskies through age alone, we're doing the whiskies a disservice and ourselves. Look at the price. Look at what else is available for that same price on the shelf, and then consider the quality. Consider sipping it blind if you were pouring it for one of your friends at a tasting group blind. And then I've thrown this in as well to compare it against. Now, I'll hold up the slightly darker one here. Look at the difference here. This one on the right here, this new one I'm talking about, is considerably darker. It's got some nice ruby red highlights in it too. And I discovered this through the magic of Glasgow's Whisky Club. We had a tasting recently, a lovely flight of Dewar's products, and along comes this, rebranded. Okay, we're all afraid of a rebranding now, aren't we? We're nervous. You know, it's not all going to be like Benromac, reasonably well handled rebranding. It could maybe be like, you remember the Highland Park one that didn't go down too well years ago. More recently, Balblair, it fell flat with enthusiasts, and also, honestly speaking, the old Pulteney rebranding as well. This is a rebranding too. Jimmy Legs bought me a dram. I don't want to miss it. Jimmy says, when you say you had the urge to stock up in Glendronach, I realised we are different in that way. I had the urge to never buy it again. I had the urge. It was the first thing that flashed through my mind. But I'm going to make a point here, Jimmy, and I think that you'll be in agreement with me. Here we go with this Royal Brackla. 12-year-old Royal Brackla. It says on the label, sherry cask finish. And underneath it tells us that the sherry that's been used is Oloroso. Quite nice on transparency. And I have to say, this is quite an attractive bottle. The thing that strikes me, though, is the colour of this. Look at it. This is an Oloroso finish. So immediately you're suspicious. It's not, this is going to, I think this has probably had a bit of caramel in it. But thank you, Dears Bacardi. Thank you, Royal Brackla. It doesn't. It says on it that it's natural colour, and it also tells us that it's non-chill filtered, and it's 46%. Some things, as Glendronach step back, Royal Brackla are stepping up. There's always more whiskey. Now, I can put it in this lineup. This is actually the cheapest of the three. It's 12 years old. It's a bit expensive for a 12-year-old still at £58. I'd like to see it under 50. But the same as a Glenturret, let's not judge it based on its age statement. Judge it based on its engagement. So I'm going to take the wee lids off these just now. And I know what I'm going to say to you about these three, but I'll just remind myself. I was doing this last night. You might have seen my Instagram post. I shared it with everyone. JG's bought me a dram and said, just realised most of my Scotch collection is Islay and Highland. Any suggestions for some Speyside? It's coming at you right now. Royal Brackla, Highland, Glenturret, Southern Highland, Glendronach, Speyside. I'll take you into the Highlands at least, because I think there are two whiskies here that are definitely worth recommending. So the Glendronach, we know there's a slight sweetness with the Glendronach, and I have to say, give it its due. If you spend a bit of time with it, there is a bit of age depth there. Maybe not like the original revival before it was discontinued, but there is age. There is a bit of a dunnage note in there. There is some dark, rich, tasty, syrupy fruits. But it's the PX that's bringing that sweetness. Oh, this is our Glenturret. The Glenturret is just amazing. Anybody that's had any experience or spent any time with Old Macallan, the Old Macallan that we used to be able to buy that nobody can buy anymore, this is it. That's in this bottle. It's just vibrant. Where the Glendronach is kind of round and syrupy and fruity, this is spice forward, but it's very inviting. It's all in check. It's like it's suggesting even on the nose that this is a velvety experience, if that makes any sense. It's just, I've got through this so quickly. It's not going to be around forever. The 12-year-old Glenturret is the 2020 release. You're specifically looking for this packaging, this bottle, and it does say 2020 made and release on the bottle. It's just fantastic stuff. And if you taste this and you think it's average or not that great or pedestrian, then put it to the side for a while, come back to it, pour a few blind like this, and sip it again. I think it's just incredible whiskey. Now the Brackla, this is a bit cheaper, but the same age. This has only been open a couple of days. Beautifully rich natural colour. Sweet, like a juicy, sweet date or fig, or the spice is much mellower. I'm going to suggest this is kind of much more of an American oak type experience. So even when it hit that Oloroso sherry cask, I don't know what it was matured in before then. It could be that the Oloroso sherry casks are a mix of European and American oak. This is a juicier thing, much closer to maybe the Arran 18, that kind of style of sherry cask. It's inviting, it's ripe fruits. Sweet. Easy, beautifully easy to access, a bit softer, a bit less vibrant than the Glenturret, a bit less jagged, a bit less texture, but just easy and rounded and very, very integrated. When we tasted it at the Glasgow Whisky Club, it was up against some really, really tricky whiskies, very, very good whiskies, and it did very well. So now I'm going to put it against the 15-year-old Glendronach. I have to say I would take the Glenturret 12 over all three of these, no problem. Okay, you are getting more. There is much more of a rich dunnage, as I say, on the Glendronach. There is more age here. Still excellent whiskey. It was my whiskey of the year 2 years ago. And you can see why it was. I mean, I know that all of you love it as well. Again, much juicier, sweeter, just a cleaner sherry experience from the Royal Brackla. But there we go. If you're running out and you're emptying the shelf of Glendronach because they've removed non-chill filtered age statement and the natural colour age statement from the packaging, you're causing a huge vacuum in the supply chain. And inevitably, the retailers, the distributors, they will place orders back on the source to fill that vacuum. So from Glendronach taking a negative step for us as enthusiasts, those same enthusiasts might not be doing the smartest thing to empty the shelves because they see this massive spike in demand. Now, by the time that the stock out there that's out there in the supply chain, out there in the field, I guess, by the time that it all disappears and it changes over to the new presentation, they'll just be thinking about this happened and it was a big success. This was the right decision, that it's a huge demand, because the distributors and the retailers are not going to know what's going on there. They're not going to know that there's a hoarding pattern happening, that people are adding it to the Glass Loch. They're going to think that it's an uptick in demand. I think I'm stepping away from Glendronach until we know what they're doing going forward. If the prices and the value stays the same, if they've got other ways of sharing with us that the product is still, they assure us that it's going to stay natural coloured, and they're going to not filter it, the ones that they keep up at 46%, great. We need you to put that on the label. It's malt whiskey. You've been doing it for years. You've got a brand that was built on enthusiasts. And just like other distilleries that's gone before you, you build up your audience on the back of enthusiasts, the aficionados, the geeks, the connoisseurs, however you want to refer to them. The ones that spread the word for you and tell everybody and tell all their friends how amazing it is. Build up this amazing brand. And then you just switch and pivot into more lucrative markets. And you take the whiskey away. It's not our whiskey, it's your whiskey. You've got a business and you're allowed to do what you like. But people have invested in that. They've built emotional connections with that product. And it hurts. It smarts when you make a decision like that. And it's against the zeitgeist. Everybody's moving to more and more natural products. And all of those markets that don't care, or they want a clear whiskey when they pour it over ice or put cold water in it, one day soon, they'll know to look for a natural presentation whiskey too. And I hope, Glendronach, you're part of the party when they do that as well. Anyway, I'm going to go on to a positive note, and I'm going to talk about, I have to say, well done, Royal Brackla, honestly, well done. I'm going to talk about getting together and sharing experiences and discussions and topics like this. Nick Keane is saying, I'm going to have to call my new whiskey the Glass Loch now. That's really what I've been talking about. This, when I say Glass Loch, what I'm talking about is this hoarding thing that we're all doing. I'm doing it. Look over my shoulders. These are all sealed bottles. Everything here is bought with the intention of me enjoying it. I've bought it because I like it, or am at least very, very curious about it. Or potentially they've been gifted to me. They're all going to be opened. But if everybody's doing that, which they are, all over the place, there's a lot of whiskey. There are floorboards starting to creak in houses and apartments now from the amount of whiskey that everyone's sitting on. And there comes a time when that kind of flows back onto the market again. And then the primary market is competing with the secondary market on prices. And that's a bad place to be, because bank accounts and wallets and, you know, pockets have long memories. But yes, Nick, it's a good thing to call your new shelf the Glass Loch. Martin is saying, Martin Kirsch is saying, I agree, just put it on the label, support the consumers that support you. People are open to natural products today. That's right. It's about education. It's about the people that are serving it as well, to tell people this is a natural product. You celebrate the fact that it goes cloudy. This makes it amazing. I'm just wondering how people like Rachel Barry and her co-workers dealing with these kind of marketing-driven executive decisions. I don't really know, Menno. Honestly, I'm broadcasting only my own opinion. I don't really have any access to those dynamics or those opinions or decisions. But yes, it makes us all curious, doesn't it? And Lindsay Holman is saying, did you see Ralphie Extras this week? Yes, I did. Update in Glendronach, no reduction in ABV, chill filtration, however, question mark. Yes, Ralphie's frustrated too. And he put that Extras video out there. I watched it and from start to finish. And he got the official feedback back. They wanted to correct him on mistakes that he's made and things like that. So there's ambiguity out there. There are people second guessing, because they've got these nebulous statements that they're saying, oh no, it's for quality, it's for consistency, stability, clarity, all that. Say the words. Stop treating us. Say the words. And Eric is saying, Eric Waite is in, good to see Eric, saying, rule number one, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. Glendronach portfolio was working well. Now they're sending the wrong message. I think they're going to see a huge spike in sales on the back of this decision. And I think how that success is interpreted is what worries me. David Owen is saying, so it's goodbye Glendronach and hello Royal Brackla. No, David, no, please no. Get together with some tasting buddies, share the cost of a bottle of Royal Brackla, get a sample from somebody, join a whiskey club like I did, get to taste it that way before you go out and spend £58 on 12-year-old whiskey. And if you can't, maybe you decide that you trust me or you trust the presentation of the product, and it might seem to fit in your profile, your preference of whiskey, and £58 or whatever it costs where you are seems okay. Please be very, very careful that it's this 12-year-old I'm talking about in this new label. If it's the navy, the dark blue label, it's the kind of old 40% presentation. It's not where I'm pointing you towards. That's old Royal Brackla, the way it used to be presented. And it wasn't that great for an enthusiast. It was lovely whiskey, but it was just a wee bit soft and pallid and insipid in the presentation that it used to go out at, the 12, the 16 and the 21. Highland Hamish is saying, greatly appreciate if you could give a mention to the chap in pre-9:45 super chat from me. Oh, Hamish, I'm sorry. Did I miss you with a super chat before I went live? I had some guests in the background, my friend, but thank you very, very much. And I do apologise that I missed it. I'll raise this glass of Glendronach and sort of say, Slancha Hamish, thank you very much for your super chat. And I'm sorry if I missed a comment as well, buddy. And I'm also sorry to Chris. I think it was the only super chat I missed last week in Jim McEwen's. I sent Chris a wee message when I realised I'd missed it. But thank you, Hamish. Thank you very, very much. Cheers. Oh. My goodness, I need to get on to my guests. We've got wonderful, fun things to talk about tonight. Graham Fraser is saying, wonder if Rachel Barry is happy about this Brown-Forman corporate decision. And Zeliner is saying, considering that RN18 costs only a little more than Glendronach 15, I know what I'll be buying in the future. There's millions of choices. Absolutely, Zeliner. Absolutely is exactly what we're saying. No purchase based on your opinion has ever done me wrong, says Daniel Williams. Let's keep that going as long as we possibly can, Daniel. And Eric Waite is saying, I sent a super chat a long time ago. Eric, my friend, I'm so sorry. You'd think I would be getting a wee bit better at this. And it's now dropped off. Eric, thank you, buddy. It's always wonderful to welcome you in, and I'm missing you, fella. I hope you're doing well. Cheers, and thanks for the dram. If anybody has watched my video, The Magic of Islay, I shot that video with a friend. I think it was 2018. I think it's 3 years old now, that video. And it was a friend who kind of facilitated that trip to Islay for us. It was him. He wanted to get back to Islay. Him and I had been on Islay with all our friends back for my 40th in 2010. And he wanted to go back again, and we went back in 2018. And I decided that we would make a video while we were there to try and document what is it that draws people to Islay, because it's not just the whiskey. We go to Islay for whiskey, and we end up realising that it's the place and the people and just the magic of it all. And the whiskey becomes a bit of a backdrop to it. So we made that video, and my friend helped me make that video. I've known him for 30 years. You know him as WhiskyDisciple. Occasionally he's just in as Bill, and tonight he's joining us as Bill. But I want to bring in Bill now and ask him how he is getting together and sharing his whiskey. Buddy, so good to see you. So good to see you, my friend. And so good to see you in uniform. Look at that.
Hey,
How are you
Ron.
doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm doing very, very
Of
well.
course I had to represent, right?
I'm sorry?
Of course I had to represent.
Yes, of course. I actually forgot that was that you had one of those. Yeah, because I was thinking about sending a wee care package across, and I'll know not to send that shirt. Buddy, it's wonderful to see you in. It's amazing that we live in a day that my friend in California, who I never spoke to from one year to the next, let's be honest, when I met you 30 years ago, you were living in the UK, of course, but you've been back to California and we hardly spoke. But nowadays with technology, this is the second time in a week that we've been together, right?
Awesome.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And we'll touch on that. Go ahead.
I've been watching you since you went live too, right? So, even I was like this friend just kind of observing from the background as a barfly.
That's right. But I think you admitted that you kind of felt that I was missing you because I didn't have that connection with you. Whereas you were tuning into me on the vPub and you kind of kept up with what was going on in my life and you kind of felt comfortable with what was going on and things. And it was like that one directional thing. So it's a huge bonus for me when I get a chance to speak to you like this or like I did at the weekend too. It's fantastic. But I think I've got lots of things in my life to thank you for. Lots of wee fun things, wee anecdotes, wee songs that I sing to my kids, things that I cook to this day I learned 30 years ago from Bill down south, all of these things. But I think, can I take responsibility for you loving whiskey?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's no question about it. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, even when Christine and I, my wife and I were over, in 2013 or something like that, and you laid out that ladder of whiskeys for us to go, try, I think 4 or 5 different whiskeys and called them a ladder. I don't know if you still use that term. I haven't heard you use it.
No, it was the steps. It was the steps. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Now, and I'm going to give you another fright because I'm going to tell you it wasn't 2013. That was 2009.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you remember the girls were only 1 year old.
Right.
Walking and things. And we laid out, and that idea of the steps, that came from grappa, actually, from my friends in Italy, because they'll occasionally, an after dinner grappa tree where they have the bottles stacked up, and the lower, the house grappa, if you like, is on the bottom, and then you go up in price. I'd never tried grappa. They brought out the grappa. I started to enjoy the grappa, and I'm going to the more and more expensive one. I get to the most expensive one at the top, and I think this is amazing. I'm going to have another one, but don't buy me the expensive one. I'll just have the house grappa again. And the Italian said, no, Roy, we never go back down the stairs. And that's what kind of inspired that steps thing that we were doing. But I think at that time I would have been taking you through the regions. But now, I think so. But now we're back to those days again on the horizon that we can maybe get together in the future. Over a dining table in someone's house, in a meeting place, whatever it may be. But you, despite the pandemic, despite the things that's been happening over the last year or so, because you were just about to start that very thing, you've been forced into a situation where you've had to kind of keep your tasting group going. But you don't have a club yet. You don't have a venue yet. You don't have a name for this yet. You don't even have a scheduled event. You're kind of at that embryonic stage. Tell us how you're sharing your whiskey, buddy.
Well, so prior to COVID, there was a bar in town where I was, like you said, I was talking to the owner about starting Whiskey Wednesdays and having a club where we all joined. And he would help facilitate the club.
Which part of California are you in, Bill?
I'm in Temecula, about 60 miles north of San Diego. And the bar is called Apparition Club. It's a speakeasy in Old Town Temecula, if anybody's in the area. And I know you have a couple of barflies that are close by anyhow.
Yeah.
So anyhow, then COVID hit, and that really put a damper on a lot of things in my life. And I have 2 really good friends, best men in my wedding, and they live in LA, and we had gotten together, which is about another 60 to 90 miles northwest of us. And we'd get together, once or twice a month at least at a bar somewhere in LA and have drinks and beers and whatever we were doing. And so COVID put a real damper on that, and we couldn't get together. And that's all along I've been watching you. And somewhere early on in COVID, you came up with this hashtag DramShare.
That's right.
And and a light bulb went off in my head that I was like, hey, I could do that. I mean, meanwhile, I've been buying all this whiskey that I could probably never drink, in my Glass Loch. And so I thought, what a great opportunity to be able to share whiskey with my good friends and give us a reason to get together, really, like at least some kind of a core. So, and I went out and bought a bunch of little 2-ounce bottles from Amazon and put little labels on them, A, B, C, D. Started with 4 different drams, and I'd ship them off by UPS here, which, they'd get them the next day pretty cheap. And that weekend we'd get together on Zoom and we'd, taste the 4 different whiskeys. And it was really fun to be doing, especially watching them taste it blind and me knowing what it was and seeing them kind of sort it out. And I knew a little bit more than them, not much more, but they literally really knew, very little. And it just, it's really fun to do that together. And we've continued doing it for over the year, more than a year now of COVID. And we've tried other things besides whiskey, to be honest. We've done vermouths and what do you call them?
Gin.
Amaros too from Italy, and gins and bourbons, and Wizard whiskey and rye and all kinds of things. They've been a lot of fun. And so then maybe halfway through, now I have all these little bottles, and my wife has this book club that she belongs to, and I know all the guys, all the husbands that are in the book club, but I realized that, hey, I have enough bottles that I could actually send a package to all the guys. And like Christine, drove around town and dropped off 6 bottles on each one's doorstep. So because we, couldn't talk to each other, so to speak, in person because of COVID. And they all pulled them inside. And that weekend, we all 8 of us at the time got on a Zoom call and shared this whiskey. And since then, that group has gotten together. That's a local group now. And as COVID has started to subside here in California, we're really getting very close to opening up completely. We have now, the 8 of us have gotten together in person and done some tastings, and it's just a matter of time before we get back to the apparition room and say, hey, okay, we're ready.
Absolutely. And I have to say, I think I've made little notes here about the steps in order to get to this point of sharing and having something that's established, something that has a chance to endure over time. And number 1 has been put in place, and it's been put in place by you. You wear that T-shirt well, my friend. And that is, you need an evangelist. You need somebody that's willing to take charge. Maybe it's because they have the whiskey, they have the knowledge, or they have just the desire to get a group together. But that's you in this case, reaching out to your friends, then reaching out to the husbands or the partners of your wife's club, and bringing these people together and offering them something that might be interesting to them. And I'm going to share it. I do a wee screen share because you sent me this, and you don't mind me sharing this, do you? This is your bottle shares. So Bill just sent me a wee email, and he said, hey, this is the kind of thing that we're sharing just now. Have a look at this. Yeah, this is a really nice kind of Scotch lineup with an Indian whiskey. There's a Compass Box Juveniles there, and a Thrusk from an Indian there, a Campbelltown Hazelburn 13-year-old Oloroso. So these are nice whiskies he's sharing, as well as the Fusion from Amrut. Then he's got some American whiskies in here, going through a bourbon. In fact, these are all bourbon whiskies, aren't they, apart from the Jack Daniels at the end.
Right.
Then you've got a whole flight of really quite interesting ryes, some of these things that I haven't even had a chance to try yet. Then we've got even exploring blends, all the way from Black Label and Grouse and White Label, all the way up through Chivas 12, Johnny 18 and Blue Label. Fantastic. And you're putting together these sheets, aren't you? You're putting together these. And this is
I want to give everybody that was tasting an idea of what these bottles cost, because most of us drink in the bar if we're going to have a whiskey, and the prices are, it's very hard to take the price of a dram and compare it to the price of the bottle. So, and then I tried to have a theme pretty much with it. Like you can see, these are all peated, to some extent peated whiskeys, relatively young whiskeys.
This is a perfect comparison. Perfect. I mean, all decent ABV because the Ardbeg, the Lagavulin 46, 48, 46 on the Springbank, Lafroig 10 cast strength there. A perfect.
That's what I'm drinking right now, by the way, the Lagavulin 8.
Fantastic. I should have asked you what's in the glass, of course. But I guess all these then represent a night. These represent an evening's tasting,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
Absolutely fantastic. So it's not just a case of kind of getting together some people. It's a case of putting together something to focus on. It's fine for you to have the social discussion, and that's half the fun, the draw, really. But, you know, this kind of backbone, the structure to kind of, so that somebody can come away from this, not just drinking without any thought, but tasting and comparing and learning and developing. Absolutely.
Well, the one that we did, that I think that was one of the more interesting ones I just did with the book club boys, was 6 different types of whiskey, if you will, sort of. You know, they were all, there was a bourbon, a rye, an American single malt, Scotch, an Irish, and a Taiwanese. So those were the 6 whiskeys, and they were all tasted them blind. And the book club boys, they didn't even like whiskey when we started this. Like they didn't do brown liquor, right? They were vodka drinkers, really, maybe tequila. And
excellent.
And so, and it's only been a few months. So, you know, let's say 6 months. So the challenge for them was to figure out which one was the Scotch and which one was the bourbon and which was the rye. And one guy got all of them right, you know. And which
do you think I was lucky, or do you think that you've got somebody in the group already that's got a quite?
Well, when they ask, well, what should I be looking for in some of these different things? So, like I said, well, I think rye should be a little spicier, and some people say pickling spice, whatever that means. And so I gave people these what I would call clues, and he just nailed them all. You know, he just was like, I think, you know, and he was getting them right, but he was really doubting himself. I was like, trust your gut, trust your gut, trust your gut. You got them all right. So, and he won a bottle of Wow as a result, which was also something I did.
So you had a prize as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
And this guy, did you detect any kind of desire for him to do it again? What was the feedback after that night?
We're getting together on Saturday night again, which is really a week later. So we'll see. Somebody else is organizing it this time, so that's going to be fun too, to see what. Because as much as I like watching other people try and figure out what they're drinking or what the reaction to it is, which one they like better, you know, it's fun to know that somebody's tasting let's call it, you know, that Wild Turkey Keeper's Reserve or Master Keeper, whatever it's called. It's a pretty expensive bottle, and have them taste it and go, I really like this, like not knowing that it costs any more than any others, or vice versa, tasting Blue Label and going, hey, I don't like this as much as I like the 18-year-old, you know, which makes sense because it's a higher, you know, anyhow. I think I'm looking forward to doing it blind myself and having other people facilitate it for me.
I think you have to be honest and talk about how much fun there is in vicarious enjoyment. Seeing other people have the same epiphanies, for want of another word. I mean, it genuinely can be at times that you've had in your whiskey journey where you've sat there staring at the glass. You cannot focus on what people are saying anymore. You don't know where you are. There's no noise. There's just you having just this moment with a sip of flavor, and you're wondering what's happening, where it's come from. And it's that's kind of one of the drivers for me to share it with other folk, but because when you get that feedback, it's an amazing thing, and you can live your moments again, as you say, you know, vicariously. Because right now, if we're honest, Bill, the way that your model is a little bit costly for you because they're mostly leaning on your whiskies, the 2-ounce bottles, the shipping, the distribution of it, even that bottle of Wow as a prize and things like that. To get the inertia going, you're probably funding it now, right?
Yeah.
So I think
I'm in a position where I can, I guess, you know, that's true.
So you had some questions before we went live tonight, and you're here to share how you've started this, but you're also hoping to pick up from the other guys. How can I lay out something that might endure? How can I build a model that people are happy to contribute towards, to lessen the financial burden on you, and make everybody actively invest. And I think, honestly, when people invest in something, they become more active and more part of it too.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I think you have to get them, you have to hook them or hook them in first, right? Otherwise
Absolutely.
they're not. But once you get them, I don't think it's going to be a problem moving forward. Yeah.
Well, I've just shared the whiskies that you've been sharing with them. If I lived next to you in California, I would consider myself a very lucky man to have this neighbor.
You're welcome anytime. You know that.
Well, yeah, we're making plans, aren't we? Yeah. So I think that's what we've got with you, Bill, out there, is we've got somebody there's a seed planted there. And this is something that you can take into your retirement. It's something you can involve anybody in. You can make it as inclusive as you possibly can and just teach people how amazing whiskey is and that it is a taste, a flavor experience more than a drink, which is what, unfortunately, most people still see. Most spirits, but also whiskey suffers a wee bit from that too. And there's just so much more to it, I think. I have to say, I get really proud. Because there was a time in our life, buddy, way back in the south of England. I was in my early 20s. You were in your early 30s. And I saw you as a much more grown up, kind of wizened role model for me. You taught me a lot of stuff. You might not appreciate it, but you definitely did. You had a very positive impact in my life. And as the years ticked by and things like that, I thought, maybe there'd be something I could do for Big Bill over there in America. And I feel really chuffed that I beat you over the head until I got you to enjoy whiskey.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Buddy, can
if
you
only we would have known about whiskey 30 years ago, though. Think what stuff we could have put on our shelf back then.
That's what you can't dwell on, right? Yes, hindsight has that wonderful 2020 vision, doesn't it? But the lesson that you take from looking back and thinking, oh, what would I have done? We're living in the best time that you've ever been alive to enjoy whiskey. We need to make the most of it now. We're not going to be able to predict what's going to shoot up in value, what's going to be. That's not what it's about. Just take what we can just now, make the most of it, and know what this thing does in order to help us feel what it is to be alive, right? So, that's kind of what it's about. Are you able to stay around till the end? I know it's very, very early where you are.
Oh, I'm looking forward to failing a Menno quiz for sure.
You've let the cat out of the bag. Let's see what happens to the audience numbers now. Yes, it's a Menno quiz tonight. I've invited Menno across because tonight had a very community feel. I'm hoping that Menno can kind of participate maybe once a month and bring his really, really brutal quiz questions to us. He's suggesting that tonight might not be as brutal as normal, but it's always a pleasure for me to sit back and take a bit of the punishment with everybody else. So, buddy, if you can stay till the end, that would be amazing. Well, I'm going to raise this wee glass of Glenturret, and I'm going to say thank you thank you for everything. Thank for just being a pal of mine, honestly. But thanks for coming and stepping behind the bar on the vPub, buddy, and I'll see you shortly. Thank you so much, Cheers. Bill. Thank you.
Just watch it.
Good luck with all your evangelism out there in California.
Doing my best, man.
Bill out there in the West Coast, just north of San Diego, Temecula. That's where my wife and I got engaged out there many, many years ago. Fantastic guy. And Jerry Miller is saying, oh no, a Menno quiz. Don't worry about it, Jerry. We're all in it together, my friend. Jamie Brown has brought me a dram to say, is there anywhere here in the Dunfermline area? So there you go, East Coast, Scotland. A whiskey club is something I've thought about for a while. But worry, there's not enough interest. And the other thing, Jamie, is that it's not just about, is there interest here? I guarantee you there's interest. There will be interest. Word gets out. Go to your specialist retailer next to you and say, is there a club? And if they say, oh, there's not one, let's say, okay, I'm starting a club. I'm going to start a club now. Here's my details. Here's my email. Here's my number. For anybody, just me and one person gets together, 2, 3, 4, and just build it from that, Jamie. You might find in Dunfermline there are already whiskey clubs there, so have a wee look at that first. But even then, a lot of the whiskey clubs can have a capacity issue. Some clubs, they can only have a membership that basically is the size of how many measures you can pour out of a bottle purchase. So you might find that even if there are clubs, Jamie, there's a waiting list to join, in which case there is no competition in you starting up another club if the demand is there. Jamie, thank you very much for the drama, friend, and it's nice to welcome you in. Cheers. And Whiskey Novice Jim is saying, Menno quiz, you say, see you later. Don't be a big fearty, Jim. Stay, won't you stay? So what happens after Bill manages to get that? He's got his core together now. He's got some folk that he's getting his hooks into, and they're enjoying it. And already the people that he was evangelizing to just a few days ago, they're meeting again on Saturday this weekend. So there's an inevitability there that people are going to enjoy this stuff, and they're going to enjoy getting together, and they're going to enjoy this outlet and understand how to slow down with what is a powerful alcoholic drink, honestly. So where does he go next? How does he structure it? How does he finance it? Well, it's baby steps, isn't it? It's nothing. You just can't go from a couple of people to having a successful whiskey club. It's going to take time. So I'm going to reach out to my next guests. And I could have reached out to a few clubs and a few gatherings, a few groups of people. Honestly, I've mentioned the London Whisky Club a few times now. They're massive now. They're doing amazing things with a huge, huge membership. There's other clubs in the Northeast. There's other clubs in Scotland. But there's one that struck me last year, and I felt a heart sorry for them, because they got together, 6 of them, barflies from this very lounge, that lived close to each other. And there's a fantastic story how they worked out that they lived close to each other. I'll let them share it with you. And they decided, let's start a club. And they did, right the week before lockdown. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to welcome in Richard and Simon. Hello, boys. Hello. Oh, you're looking very relaxed. I need you to sit up and pay attention now, Simon. Come on. How many drams has Richard given you already?
Oh, way too many, Roy.
Way too many.
And can I just, we don't normally sit this close together.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, but I mean, things are starting to open up. This is my point now. We're getting to the point where we can maybe start to meet up. We can start to get back to that idea that's difficult to even recall now, what it used to be like to be in the same space, a pub together. My goodness, a cold pint handed over the bar. I'm almost weeping just thinking about it, right? But we're getting back there again, and that means that I'll get to look forward to the nights at the Glasgow Whisky Club again that's not using cameras and microphones. We're actually in the same space together, that nice feeling. But you guys, well, before I talk about the fact that you set up your club a week before COVID kicked in, you guys managed to work out somehow, and this is what I want to try and encourage tonight, more of this. There are people watching, either they're commenting and chatting or they're just watching in the background, and they literally don't know that there's somebody very, very close to them also tuning in, maybe not every time, but occasionally. And there's basically a stranger there that could be a friend, right? That a stranger is just a friend you haven't met yet, that idea. That happened with you guys. Richard, take it away. How did it happen?
Yeah, well, for me, I mean, tuning into you, Roy, and you've got this huge global community, and at 9:45, our time, people are tuning in from all around the world, and it's so easy just to feel as though you are a loner. I think I described to you, it's a bit like being a Notts County fan in Glasgow. That you just feel completely. You think there must be somebody out there, but where are they? And it was about 1.5 years ago, and you were encouraging us all to get involved in dram swaps and dram
share thing.
Yeah, that's right. And I just said, anybody fancy swapping? And a guy with the handle of Whiskey Freedom stepped forward and turned out, which I thought was a great handle, Fraser. That's right, yeah. And we said, okay, let's do it. And let's swap email addresses. We contacted each other the next day and said, where do you live? And I said, I'm in Nottingham. I'm in Nottingham as well. Where do you live? I'm in Lamley. I drive through Lamley every day to drop my daughter off at school.
Fate.
Absolutely, it was. And all of a sudden you think, maybe although it's a global community, it's actually, there are people on your doorstep as well that you just don't know about. And your vPub, Roy, has been fantastic for that. And we thought that was enough of a coincidence, and we swapped a few drams, and it was probably about 6 months later after that, and we just put the word out there, and we're just asking if there was anybody else in Nottingham that might be there, and it turned out that 6, 7, 8 of your barflies were also not too far away. So Fraser being 3 miles away from me, I thought was coincidence enough, but Simon here turned out to be 2 miles away.
That's incredible. And Simon, I know you've been up in Glasgow. We've actually raised a glass together and things.
Yeah,
I know
indeed.
you. And this was before you were up here, before you knew that all of these guys were super, super close together, right? And I'm thinking about Fraser, as you mentioned, Whiskey Freedom. I'm thinking about Billy Saunders. I'm thinking of Tom Lindsay. Who am I forgetting? Help me out here. James, of course, James Burgoyne. And these are all familiar names.
Yeah,
we got all very, very close. Maybe Tom's a wee bit further out, I think.
Yeah, Tom and Billy are a little bit further out, but still within easy striking distance.
Fantastic. So tell us how what you first got together, and I know that your timing couldn't have been, well, it doesn't. It's the timing is incidental, isn't it? Tell us how you first got together. Then what happened?
Well, after we got together as a six on a vPub, we all in email contact, and we decided we were going to meet in a whiskey bar in Nottingham, and then lockdown occurred, and it literally was a complete shutdown, and so everything that we were able to do was purely online. And that's what we did, and the first thing that we started doing was bottle sharing, and it was a revelation for me, because whenever I tasted whiskey, I was having to buy the whole bottle and drink it, whether I liked it or not. But this bottle share lot was fabulous. You could, all of a sudden you go from just buying one bottle to you're effectively buying 7 for the same price. It was superb. It was a great idea.
I think actually the very first thing we did when we had our first Zoom chat together, which we were really pleased that you were able to join us on, Roy, was we'd all bought a bottle of Glendronach Revival. We'd agreed which bottle we were all going to buy, so that we could relive the pub experience by sharing exactly the same dram all together at the same time. So yeah, we had the Glendronach together, and then we decided who would buy what. And then shared the drams amongst us. So
I think what will happen is because you were running about with sample bottles and bubble wrap and packages and trying to get it from A to B and cycling and dropping off and driving and dropping off and all these things that are happening. But in the future, you'll be doing the exact same thing. You'll be buying the same bottles. You'll be getting together and you'll just be pouring them into glasses rather than in sample bottles. Is that the goal?
Yeah, we've managed to do that to an extent, because obviously as the pandemic's rolled forward, there's been times when it's been possible to get together. So because there was a core of 6 of us, actually last summer, we were able to get together as a 6. Richard's got a bit of land out the back of his house. He put a gazebo up, and we were able to bring some bottles and meet each other. It was a very surreal experience. It's a bit like meeting you for the first time in Glasgow, Roy. You feel like you know people because you connect with them all the time through this medium, and then you're actually there physically in person. And we had a fantastic evening, shared many drams, caroused late into the evening. And then, of course, we hit another lockdown, and we were back to having to meet virtually again and thinking, how do we try and move the club forward from there? So I think having got on as a 6 and realized that actually we had the nucleus of a club, the thought was then, right, how do we try and, following on from your example about evangelizing about whiskey, how do we try and move that forward? And I think we're fortunate in that we live in an age of social media, which meant we could use things like Facebook and WhatsApp to get the word out there. We've also got a couple of good whiskey shops, an independent and an actual whiskey shop in Nottingham. that we were well known in. I can't think why. So we were able to
good customers, let's say.
Yeah, we were able to sort of spread the word via them. So if they had people that were coming in, they could share the word. And we're now up to 50 members on Facebook, and slightly smaller than that on WhatsApp. But the WhatsApp enables us to sort of, people can follow us through Facebook and can see what's happening, but people who want to engage at a slightly deeper level can get involved in the WhatsApp. And then, you know, we've started to follow the lead of others that have been doing virtual tastings during lockdown. We've been very fortunate that we've got somebody like Tom, who's a member of the group, who's got connections in the whiskey world. So we've been able to put on tastings with representatives from distilleries, and that's also helped to encourage.
Have you hosted Elixir Distillers yet?
We haven't. We've had.
Let's see if we can fix that this evening. Okay.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
So, I mean, what you've got now, you've got this kind of progression, because nothing just stays still. Nothing. The only thing constant is change. So you've now got that WhatsApp group, and I can predict that what that's going to evolve into is some form of kind of committee. There'll be a core group of people that step up more often than others because they have the time, the energy, the passion, the ability, whatever it is, to do the things that need to be done. And this, you'll start to form this kind of natural thing. Have you got any idea of kind of how you're going to structure things going forward? Are you going to wait to see what happens after the lockdown eases? What are your immediate plans then? Because you've now got 25 core, 50 larger membership count already. You've built this up in a year of lockdown. Is amazing. So the appetite is there. How are you going to take it forward? There will be challenges, right?
Yeah, I think at the moment there's a kind of natural structure there, because there's the 6 of us who are sort of the founder members.
Yep.
And we've built quite a strong connection amongst each other.
Yep.
You know, and we had the opportunity to do that before we tried to broaden it out. So we're quite a solid group, and we've already worked kind of collegiately just amongst the 6 of us. So, for example, we've done a cask share amongst the 6 of us. So we're quite bonded on that front. So I think that in terms of the sort of structure of it, we can build out from that. If others are interested in taking key roles going forward, then we'd absolutely welcome that. But if nobody else came forward, we know that we've got 6 of us who are absolutely committed. You know, and if everybody else fell away tomorrow, there would still be the 6 of us that would come together and have a dram. So for us, it's quite a fluid arrangement. We're happy for it to get as big as interest allows. But equally, if it all disappeared tomorrow, we know that there's a nucleus of 6 of us that enjoy each other's company, that would be happy to get together and bottle share and do tastings, whether virtual or in person. And, you know, we want to expand to do trips. You know, we've got White Peak Distillery on our doorstep. So once the lockdown's unwound completely, that will be one of the first things that we want to do together. But also we've got plans to come and do, you know, tours around Scotland. We want to go and to collectively do distillery tours. So
yeah.
We're going to depend on you, actually, Roy. At a moment's notice.
We might drag you out for a job.
It's my job. It's my job. I mean, if the NWA, as you're calling yourself, so the Nottingham Whisky Association, made it over the border into Scotland, you know the line I always come out with: the chances of you guys getting out in and out of the country without me knowing about it, you don't have the ninja. I would be there. Fantastic. So sorry, go ahead, Richard. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I just find the amazing thing is that, you know, I think you used the word attrition earlier on, and you know, even now, you know, we're gradually coming up with more and more members. So as the word gets about, it's you get 3 or 4 new members, and they've all got contacts themselves. And you know, even 2 weeks ago, there was a friend of mine lives in the village that's in the group and done a few tastings. He was out with a guy I've met down the pub several times. You have a little bit of a chat to, but never really knew that whiskey was a link. And he's joined the group, and he can't wait for the next tasting. And again, he's he lives a quarter of a mile away from where I do, and he's now part of the association. And you sort of think, if you can come up with 6, 7, 8, 9 people that only live within 3-mile radius of where I live, then you just sort of think, well, there are so many more people out there that want to be part of this, I'm sure.
And I have to say, what you guys may already have started to realize is that you're doing more than just sharing whiskey. You're giving people from a mental health perspective, a safe place to be, where you get together and you gather, and it doesn't matter how you vote and how you pray and how all of this stuff. It's inclusive, and you're able to see the person over a glass of whiskey for the person, and not because of where they work, where they live, how they think, and that it's completely different. You end up being exposed to people that otherwise you wouldn't have any business meeting. You wouldn't have had the opportunity to get to know these people. Whiskey brings this kind of really quite disparate group of people together and shows them that we have the ability to get on with whoever we like. And that whiskey is just an amazing leveler for that. I don't know if you've already discovered that, or if down there in the Midlands you're all pretty like each other anyway.
But there is that interconnectivity, absolutely. So when we were talking about the dram swap, and it was, Fraser and Richard found each other, I ended up doing a dram swap with Ardbaggy, and Ardbaggy is good friends with
the
Tom.
laird of whiskey.
And it is just 3 degrees of separation.
Yes, that's right. And he's an amazing guy to get to know. He's an amazing guy to bring that wisdom of his years.
Absolutely.
And he's just a lovely, just a lovely presence to be around, if I'm honest. I hope he's in tonight. I hope he's in tonight to see. Yes, he's in. Jimmy Jazz. Andy's in tonight, so we're giving him blushes. Scotch on the Bayou, Leanne said as well, Aquavite, our local bourbon society in Baton Rouge has 600 plus members, a subgroup of 50 Scotch enthusiasts. And we will have a virtual Kilchoman tasting with James Will this Saturday. So that's worth asking. You guys have now built up a body where you have a reasonable presence to be able to say to people, will you bring whiskey to us? And then you're in a situation where you're either buying the whiskey and sourcing it yourself, or potentially having it subsidized, or some donation bottles coming in from producers who want to do a vertical flight or whatever it may be. Has that happened for you so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had tastings in the last few months. McMara, Springbank, Bimber, Arran, Carnmore. Next month it's Bruichladdich. And on most of those, we've had a representative that's been part of it to talk us through it. It helps if you've got contacts, but within the core of the 6, a lot of the guys have some very good contacts at different distilleries.
I do agree with you there, but I wouldn't want the lack of somebody having contacts to put anyone off, because as you've already mentioned, we live in the days of social media, so we can literally reach out and say, this is Simon from the Nottingham Whisky Association.
Well,
we have this many members. Yeah, go ahead, Simon.
The very first tasting we did was a McMira one, and that was through a connection with the whiskey shop in Nottingham. So one of the guys that works there is also a McMira ambassador. So we just asked him if he would be prepared to do a virtual tasting for us. We could order the pack direct from them, and away we went. And that gave us the confidence then to begin to explore further afield. Absolutely amazing.
Absolutely amazing. You guys are now at that point. You're not embryonic like Bill. You're literally sprouting. There are fruits here. There are things to enjoy going forward. You're ready for that thing to open up, and you really to get your club face on and get together for real. I have to say, when it happens, I hope I can get my big stupid head under that gazebo out in Richard's back garden as well.
There's an open invitation, Roy.
That would be amazing.
Well, watch this summer. We'll certainly be doing something then. Absolutely. I think I've just committed, actually, and I'm going to have to show my wife that I've just committed publicly. I think I've just been boo-boo.
I missed it. Just say it again.
Yes, we will be having some sort of gathering this summer for all members of the NWA.
Oh, sorry, I missed my invitation. Oh, one more time, Richard.
Roy will be our special guest.
Thing is, I think
Roy. I mean, you said Roy will be our special guest. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, you've been the inspiration. You've been the catalyst for this. We wouldn't, if it wasn't for the vPub, this wouldn't have happened. And you know, you've championed us from the outset, which we've really appreciated. And obviously popped in, you know, on Zoom to meet up with us a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
which
so
was
you've
so
joined us virtually twice, Roy. So you've got to come in the flesh next time round.
I think you need to be careful. Your problem is keeping me away now. No, but honestly, I think that's it. I was lucky enough to go to the first anniversary of the London Whisky Club on a lovely summer day in a back garden there, and just have all these folk come together, this really quite disparate group of people that hadn't otherwise known each other previously, and have a wonderful time there. I can imagine doing the same with you guys. And this is happening everywhere across the country. I'm just using you as an example this evening. This is what whiskey can do, but sometimes it just needs a wee note of inspiration, a wee gentle nudge, a bit of encouragement just to make it happen. Guys, are you going to be able to stay around until the end tonight?
Absolutely. I'm not going to bed.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I'll raise this wee glass to Richard, to Simon, to everybody at NWA. I'll wish you all the very, very best going forward. I think it's amazing what you've done, folks. Keep it going and let us know how it goes as you do. Thanks you so much.
Thanks for your support. Cheers.
Amazing, amazing. So there you go. It's happening. There are folk, and I know that some of you are living in less densely populated areas than others. I know you're maybe thinking, oh, you know, it's maybe going to be more of a challenge. It doesn't need to be that you all live in the same district, city, town, village, whatever it may be. It might be that you find yourself just connecting with people online, in a place that you can exchange samples and do a sample swap, bottle splits, whatever it may be, hook up and just kind of chat. I know that that's not as attractive a prospect, but you know, during the times of the pandemic, it's shown us that it's a lifeline. And for people that live remotely and they don't have the luxury of hopping on a train or whatever it may be, it's really a genuine lifeline. As Richard and Simon said, because I've helped them and championed their cause and spread the word about them, if you're doing that, if you're getting together and genuinely putting a club together and trying to gather people together, I will help you. Absolutely. I'll do everything I reasonably can. Chase saying, had a tasting with Julie from Elixir Distillers with Ayrshire Whisky Group. Really good tasting with some great whiskey in the lineup. I have to tell you that when you get together in a club environment, I'll touch on it when Julie comes in, the whiskies that you get exposed to it's incredible to behold. Whiskies that you would have not otherwise even been able to dream of. It's one of the huge advantages. Jimmy Legacy and Aquavite, this must feel so great for you to see how you're actively affected people. Jimmy, I talk about it all the time. You've got a guy next to you in Nova Scotia out there. Okay, Nova Scotia is vast, I understand. And it might be that he's literally 1,000 miles away from you. But the ability to bring people together. All I ask, and I should have asked it of the boys before I let them go, that they don't have their club meetings on a Thursday night, because I still want to hang out with them here. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you so much. David Owen is saying, drams are finished. Eyes are getting heavy. Catch the rest on replay. Good night, all. David, I know that you tend to do that. You catch the first half here with us and then pick up the rest on replay. And I'm very, very grateful to everyone that picks it up on replay. Thank you very, very much. You don't sit through ads. The vPubs are not monetized, thanks to the support of my amazing patrons and the wonderful barflies, the YouTube members. Thank you all so very, very much. And Jimmy Legg is saying, well, if you can get on with me, you can get on with anyone. Whiskey, exclamation mark. I'm going to bring in franchise whiskey clubs. No. The admin, the management, the headache, the politics, no. Whiskey will take care of it. Whiskey will do its own thing. The worst thing you could do is try to control, try to put too much in. Just let it take care of itself. Let the whiskey lead. It's amazing what it can achieve. I I'm gonna lean into Falsgraf is saying that was inspiring. Fantastic, Falsgraf, and Jed is saying great to see just what is possible amongst barflies. Absolutely, and Martin is saying the replay is great. Thank you for the ad-free thing and all the rest. Martin, you're very, very grateful. The folk that you need to thank are your fellow barflies that are in here tonight that have joined up as YouTube members, and of course, as I mentioned, my amazing patron support. But no, I'll never franchise it. It's not my thing. I just don't fancy it. But I will encourage everybody to create their own thing. And Blair Stevenson is saying one of the small wins during lockdown has been able to engage with clubs from around the UK. Online tastings have been great fun. That's right. That's the thing that we can never forget as we come out of this pandemic, whenever that happens. The online, the technology thing has shown us that it doesn't need to be either or. It's not digital. It's not black or white. We can have a hybrid situation where occasionally we can still connect with our friends in another corner of the country and still go and have a nice night with the folk that are local and close to us. Talking about the folk that are local and close to us, I'm going to reach in for my last guest tonight because we've got a bit of a tour de force behind the Glasgow Whisky Club here. Now, there's a lot of them involved. It's held together by a really, really committed committee team. It's fantastic. And it's been around for a long, long time. And I've reached out to my favourite whisky club because it's the greatest whisky club on the planet, and I won't hear anybody say anything differently. It's Glasgow's Whisky Club, the club that I'm a member of, honestly. And I'll start with a wee anecdote before I bring this lassie in. She's amazing, and she was the one that kind of rubber stamped me. She invited me along to a night to try it out, and kind of had a wee look and made to make sure I was going to be well behaved and things like that. And I'm grateful to her for approving my membership of the club. But what happened at the start, and I'll be honest about this, I was an irregular attendee. The nights were fantastic. It was amazing whiskies we were getting, but I wasn't making all the nights all of the time. Didn't know why, but if I reflect upon it now, I know exactly why. I joined the Whisky Club because I wanted to enjoy wonderful whiskies and see what the Glasgow Whisky Club was all about. And they brought amazing whiskies, amazing vertical flights that were subsidised and supported and in collaboration with various partners and producers. And sometimes it was just they were getting together and doing their own thing with their own sourced bottles. Amazing nights. And yet I still skipped the occasional night. Eventually that changed. And when I reflect now on what made that change, to the point that I have to be physically out of the country or lying in my bed ill to miss a Glasgow Whisky Club night. And I worked out what changed. That when I started to get to know the people in the club, I wanted to turn up to hang out with them. It became a people thing, just as much as a whiskey thing. And that was compelling. You turn up because you just want to relax and hang out with folk that you enjoy the company of. Anyway, I'm going to reach out to Julie. She's here tonight under the role as a Glasgow Whisky Club. Julie, how are you doing, Julie?
Hello, I'm fine. How are you?
Hi, I'm very, very well. I'm very, very well. Did you get anything I was saying there about... I was trying to work out when I joined the club, and I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2017. But it was around that time, I think it might have just even been the turn of the year. And throughout maybe 2017, I was maybe making 1 out of 3 clubs. I wasn't a very good member at the start, I apologise. But once you get to know folk and realise that it's more than just a flight of whiskies, this is a social outlet. This is a healthy thing with good people who are funny and different from you. Does that strike a chord at all?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You and I were talking about that just recently, about how there are people that we're now friends with that, we would never otherwise have met. It's been all through whiskey, and yeah, it's great when you get occasionally people put things up on Facebook and they'll say just one word, how do you know me? And it's just whiskey, 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 whiskey.
That's right.
Kind of thing. But
that's
yeah.
Right. There is a wee danger that it takes over, but if it takes over with nice folk, what's the harm, right? It's like it's okay. Aye. We can all remember. Well, the friends that we used to have, if they get into whiskey, they can stay. But if they don't, I'm only kidding.
They're high days and holidays, those ones.
Aye, that's right. That's right. But I know the reason that you're here tonight, Julie. Honestly, what is your position? What is your title at Glasgow Whisky Club? I know it's changed recently.
So I'm just back to being a lowly committee member now. So I was the secretary of the club for about 8 years, and then I was the chair of the club there for about 5, I think, maybe 4. I can't. But we had a little shift in committee positions. So
Yes.
Roddy took over from me as the chair, and Ian took over from Roddy as the secretary. So we kind of shifted around a little bit, and it gave me a wee break because work is well, I work in whisky now, so it's
Yes.
it's busy a lot of the time. So past chair, past secretary.
Listen, if for me, it's one of those, you, Roddy, Stefan, Ian, Robert. I mean, I start to feel guilty by naming people because you forget all the people that are really effective and active. Yeah. These really kind of funny people and interesting people, and people with really, sometimes opposing opinions about whiskey to yours that really make you rethink and readdress what you think about whiskey and help you learn all the way through it all. Yeah. It's amazing. And what strikes me about Glasgow Whisky Club, and the reason you're here honestly, is that Glasgow Whisky Club is a club that's been able to find a balance and endure over the years. How long's it been going now, Julie? You were one of the founding members, right?
So I had to check this out after I'd spoken to you. I had to phone Alex up and ask him, and we reckon it was the beginning of 2003 that we started. So I couldn't remember if it was before his daughter was born or after his daughter was born, and it was before. So 2003. So 18 years this year we've passed.
That's 2003 when I get married. I hadn't even discovered whiskey. Really, I mean, the whiskey was just a brown drink to me. It was just another drink like anything else. It wasn't until 2005. So that's amazing. So for 18 years, and for 18 years, has the membership been about more or less the same size, would you say?
Oh God, no. I mean, when we first started, there was just a handful of people, and kind of slowly over the years that expanded, so there were times where there was 20, 25 people in the club, but and we just had to expand with our venues, because we used to meet in the mezzanine in the Pot Still when there was just a few of us, so and then we moved across to the Cask and Still that Kenny had across the road as well, and we were in umpteen different places, and then we settled on the Bon, and that allowed us to have more bums on seats, if you like. We had enough whiskey, but we just didn't have enough places for folk to sit, so the Bon Accord does that.
And one of the things that's restricted the membership at the club, if I understand well, is the club is, you do get in a collaboration with producers and things, and you'll do subsidized events. But generally, the club is sourcing its own bottles, and basically, if it's interesting to the club, they'll buy a bottle and put it into club stock, right? And that means that on a tasting night, potentially a barrel night, for instance, you'll bring it along and open it and share it with the members. So the tastings are going to then be limited by how many drams you can pour out a bottle, right?
Yeah. So we cap our numbers at 35 because we use 2CL measures. So we cap it for a single bottle of everything, and it affords us the opportunity to have whiskies that you can't have 2 bottles of. It's just as simple as that.
Well, can I say there was a barrel night recently, and the opening the first 2 drams, dram 1 and dram 2, had a combined age of 53 years. We opened with a 28-year-old Bunnahabhain and then a 25-year-old. I don't even remember what it was now. My goodness. No. But I mean, it's and we were tasting them blind that night, or you were announcing them kind of after the first kind of sip or whatever. And it's just your mind's blown. Say, wait a minute, if these are the first 2, where are we going from there? Yeah, and it's the whiskies that we've been able to taste. I think especially in the last year or so, Julie, have been amazing. Whiskies, and it's that pooled, the pooled finances of the membership coming together to pay. Listen, can I say how much I pay for a tasting at Glasgow Whisky Club?
Of course.
£25.
No,
£25. And people, Lynn says to me, "What are you going to? Is it every night you have to be there? Every night there's a Glasgow Whisky Club tasting for the whiskies that we get for £25, and obviously, as I mentioned, hanging out with all you guys as well. It's an absolute no-brainer. But you've had to build towards that. You've had to work at it to get it there.
Yeah,
there must
course.
be experiences and tips and things that you would give to these kind of grassroots. The NWA, my friend out in California, to say, oh, well, you maybe don't want to grow too quickly, or you don't want to do this or do that. What would you say?
When we first started, there were 10 people, and we brought the same whiskey out all the time. And we had people who were in the club who were journalists. And in those days, so I'm going back 18 years, in those days, journalists' offices were full of booze and, like stuff getting handed in and donated for sampling and for reviewing and all this kind of thing. So we had just this tap of whiskies. And, we brought the same things out because there was only a small amount of us. So we didn't have, like we whip through, like we rinse every bottle at every club tasting now. But at the time we didn't. So we used to just bring them back out again. And it was genuinely about people getting together. It wasn't as much about the whiskey in those days. It was about people, the whole thing was like-minded people getting together.
Sure.
Because we didn't have anything like it in Glasgow in those days. We had probably SMWS in Edinburgh. And that was probably, So, starting out, I think we're non-profit. We don't take any money for it, so every penny that goes into us purchasing more bottles. So if we have a generous host that comes along, we had one on Tuesday night that didn't charge us anything for the bottles, which is just, we're super lucky to get things like that when you consider.
And it was amazing. Can I just say that was a Glenmurray flight? I need to plug them because the whiskies that Ian Allen brought along were. He started the flight with the 18-year-old heritage and went uphill from there. Yeah. But two of the whiskies you can only buy at the distillery. Anybody go near Glenmurray Distillery, you need to go and look out their Bordeaux, fully matured Bordeaux 16-year-old, and their fully matured Chardonnay 16-year-old as well, cask strength, and I think they were £85, and they were amazing. And then we finished on one that isn't even released yet. It was a port finished.
A Barolo cask.
It was Barolo. You're absolutely right. You got a much better memory than me.
Only because I wrote it down several times. But so someone like that coming along and doing a tasting for us, and they don't charge us, we still charge that same nominal £25 a head. So each time we're taking that amount of money in, it gives us money in the bank to buy whiskies. Yeah. And I think, just as you said there, the whiskies that we're managing to put out are, sometimes I don't understand how we manage to do the sums, like I feel like somebody's going to catch us out at one point and say, you owe us a fortune because we don't have all of that money in the bank. But it's amazing how it banks up, if you fill your events. So that's a thing that you can't do when you're just starting out. You can't fill your events all the time. You can if you're doing online. Has been amazing for people getting started doing whiskey clubs. Online has been absolutely amazing. My job, so I'm a whiskey ambassador for Elixir Distillers, who can do the Nottingham group. That's
there you go, boys. I told you.
But this is what I've been doing. This is my life. When I finish tonight, I've got a tasting to do for San Francisco that starts at 2 a.m. So those ones.
So this is a warm up. This is just an appetizer for you, right?
That's it. But so the online thing has not only made everybody accessible, so you can have people. So you've got whiskey clubs. I'm hosting whiskey clubs, and there's people from all over the UK on the screen. Yeah. Whereas with our club's an established membership club that we normally go on foot to a venue and sit down together and drink out of glasses together. It's our local guys that are on that.
Yes.
The exception of John. So John McShane, John, who's the brand ambassador for SMWS. John's been a member of our club for a million years, and he gets to, if he times it right, when he's up in Glasgow, he gets to come to the club. And it's been great because John's been at everything because he lives down in London. So,
in the southeast, that's right.
Which
is why I didn't recognise him from the Glasgow Whisky Club.
Yeah.
You know, I recognised his face as a whisky face out there, you know, somebody that you know. But in the Glasgow Whisky Club, I didn't meet him until we were in a virtual space. He lives in the south coast or southwest or southeast, sorry, doesn't he?
Yeah,
just south of London, I think. I can't remember. But yeah, like people like John, and the virtual thing has been amazing for that, to mean that it's easier, that people don't. I mean, saving a fortune in taxis at the end of the night and all of this kind of thing. But still, I would give it up to be back sitting in the Bon.
In a heartbeat, absolutely. It's the thing that, well, we're all missing the most, isn't it, that human contact? But I think the thing that it has afforded us is that we sell out every tasting. We don't sell out necessarily at the Bon. We do sometimes, and sometimes we've got reserve lists, and because you know we do keep it to single bottles, and we've sold out everyone, so we're bringing in the maximum money, which means that we can spend the maximum funds on the next tasting type thing. So it's been brilliant. It really has. It's been great from that perspective. Not good that
because I think the virtual thing, you've sold out every single tasting, right?
Yeah,
every single one. Yeah. That is quite amazing, because I know in summertime there's a natural lull as people are on holidays and things, and the barrel night at the Bon is often kind of, there's a table that's empty, whereas usually we've managed to fill all the tables in that kind of little area in the Bon Accord. So that it's interesting what you talk about there when you talk about all the funds going in, and all the funds go in purely to finance the club and the members and what they enjoy whiskey wise, or trips, or subsidise trips. And interestingly, an amazing thing, one of the privileges that we occasionally have is that we get to buy a club bottle.
Yeah.
And sometimes the Glasgow Whisky Club, you guys subsidise the purchase of the club bottle, which is, so it's always that mentality of paying back to the membership, paying back. So you have an AGM, you have an annual AGM that's voting in the committee and things, and you have open books. You know, you have an organisation and a committee that say that. And every year you meet up and say, this is how the accounts are doing. We've got this much money in, and we're going to spend it on this year. And we all get to have our say or our suggestions and things like that as well. So it's that kind of idea of, I suppose, what people traditionally consider a club is.
That's right. Yeah.
But we have to be careful when we talk about whiskey clubs, because there are perfectly legitimate and valid clubs out there that are either associated with a business, connected to a business, or perhaps in their own right they are a business as well. And you're involved in one of those as well. So you're involved in the Glasgow Whisky Club, but you're also involved in one that's got a commercial into it, that's a completely, it's club by name, but it's a different nature. Tell us about that.
Completely different. So the reason I started it, if I start on that, so I launched the Elixir Whisky Club. So it's not the Elixir Distillers Whisky Club, because it's not solely Elixir Distillers. We just made it Elixir Whisky Club, and we rolled that out onto Facebook, and it was phenomenal. Like, we've got 1,200. I checked it before I came on there. 1,254 members we've got now.
See, you think that's the Julie Hamilton effect? That's what that is.
But we rolled that out, and the reason that I wanted to do that was because right now, so since lockdown, and I'm not doing whiskey festivals, I'm not getting to travel to go to whiskey clubs, I'm not actually getting out to retailers, all of these things. And we are dead fortunate, Roy, to have Glasgow's Whisky Club. Just as you've said, there are so many people that don't have that, and they're trying to reach out and find other people. So I really felt that there was a kind of untapped audience out there that I've just had 4 requests come up on my screen to join the Whisky Club. But I wasn't. I felt that there was an audience that I could reach out there that didn't have that fortune of having membership of a whisky club and weren't in that. So I wanted a place where I could run Elixir Distillers tastings, but I also wanted it to be you know, a place,
Open.
and it happened right away. Everybody started engaging, and it was brilliant. You know, like people posting what they're drinking, and people posting what they're doing, and who they've been talking to, and what they've been watching, and I ran an inaugural tasting, which was a chocolate and whiskey pairing. I did 2 tastings, and they sold, and that was great. So we'll put that money back in again, and it pays for all the postage to send out to people, and we are subsidising bits and pieces to send stuff overseas. I made it a bit more expensive, but we're still subsidising part of the postage for it.
Sure.
So it does all circulate back, and we will use it for other companies and other ventures. So Ollie Chilton's my boss. He's the head of Elixir Distillers. Ollie donated 7 bottles of whiskey that he sent to me, and I divvied them up into all the packs for everybody, and we sent them out, and we did it for charity. So every penny that we made from that, we gave £1,550 to Parkinson's UK. So we were able to kind of fund the postage for the next one from the last one, that kind of thing. So it's non-profit, it's not part of the business, but it's going to give us a platform and an ability to reach people that we otherwise we wouldn't have. So it's been great. So we've got things coming up. We've got a quiz at the end of the month, and Sukhinder has donated a 45-year-old Portuguese for the top prize. So yeah, it is worth the punt because it's multiple choice, so it's worth the punt to come on. And
my goodness, the claws will be out for that one. A 45-year-old Port Askeig, my goodness.
Yes,
and I've tasted that whiskey.
You have, yeah.
Yes, I have. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I don't think it would be very popular if I won, but I would still like to come along and participate in the quiz a wee bit. Andy Ardbaggy, obviously we both know Andy Purslow. He's down and he's asking when you think your next club meetup will be face to face. What do you think?
I hope it's before the end of the year. I think, you know, I hope that it will be in. Do you know what? It'll be the summertime. We're looking at doing one. One of the guys in the club has actually approached his bowling club to ask if we can do something outdoors and if we can get like a nice night in the summer. So
suddenly I'm envisaging barbecue.
So, you know, I think we'll do that. To get back to the bond is just essential. You know, you know, it's like missing.
Paul's occasionally in, and every time he's in, I kind of get that pang of, oh my goodness. I know that it's just the idea of the bon accord being not having that thrum of people in it. It's just it's bizarre. It's crazy to see. Ryan Sutherland is saying Aquavite. Julie's tastings have been great this year. Looking forward to tomorrow night's Grail tasting. With Jen and Rachel. Yeah. Fantastic, Ryan. Fantastic. So you'll need to say hello to Ryan when he pops in.
Oh, absolutely.
Tomorrow night. And Whiskey Games is saying we've had distilleries that have said they will only come if they can sell bottles on the night. It's a shame, but a fact of life. But we can't facilitate that. Ooh, is that a dynamic that we sometimes have to deal with? They have to sell bottles. It's very rare for that to be a Glasgow thing, right?
Yeah, we don't sell bottles. We would operate via the Good Spirits Company though, which is, you know, it's in a roundabout way. So if we're doing a tasting, for me as well, like I've been doing tastings for clubs, and their associated retailer has got in touch with me to find out what it is that I'm going to be tasting so that they can order it in, because people will buy the back of it. So I suppose if you think about it, that is the case, that people will buy bottles as a result of tastings. But no, it's a treat for us when people want to sell bottles. You know, it's happened in the past that people bring bottles along on the night, which is.
We used to have a couple of traditional producers that could say, "Look, we can get you these bottles and we can sell you these," but it's the opposite, Matthew. It's rare for us to be able to buy whiskey. Aye, absolutely. Yeah. That's interesting. That is interesting.
And we buy well, I suppose, I don't know whether he means that you've got to buy the bottles to host the tasting. I don't know if that's what he means.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's Matthew Bishop, and he's out in the East Linton Whisky Club.
Right. So we do have to do that sometimes. I mean, that it's not everyone that's able to to provide it. I was having this conversation the other day with our committee, and I was saying, look, you know, if you consider that for each whisky tasting, a brand ambassador's pushing out a case of whisky each time to, you know, to whisky clubs and things like that. Yeah. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of, so you're, you know, your person who's hosting, it's their time, it's all, you know, all the things that go into that. And we want to do that because we want to see people and we want people to be tasting the whiskey, and we want, but at the same time, it's a lot. So not everyone is in the position where they're able to just freely give away cases and cases of whiskey. It's got to, you know.
But what it does do in defence of that, and I know that it costs a lot of money, is almost every tasting from almost any distillery, even distilleries I thought I didn't like.
Yeah.
You spend that time doing that vertical flight and think, oh my goodness, nothing is this was what I expected. Nothing is what I assumed it was going to be. This is amazing. It's completely different. Yeah. And I think that what endears the producer to you, and it endears some of the product to you, and you almost like it's creating a room full of kind of mini ambassadors for it. Yeah. Time for a Dram. Gregor is saying, had the pleasure of sharing some virtual drams with Julie on an online Zoom with the Scotch Lodge Whisky Club. Delightful. Now, Gregor is a friend of ours from the West Coast of them. He's an Edinburgh boy, but he's living on the West Coast. And he wants to hang out in the Glasgow Whisky Club just in the background because he wants to recreate the same thing in the West Coast of the US. And I've already got the green rubber stamp of approval from Julie that it's okay for you to do that one night. What I recommend you do though, Gregor, is joining a barrel night. So that you'd break your rooms as part of it, how it's structured and things, rather than a presentation, I think, like it was on the tasting this.
Yeah, on Tuesday.
So that would be good. So on that note, what tips would you give Gregor, and what tips would you give Richard and Simon, and maybe even Bill out in California as well? How, because there's all these kind of people coming together for the same shared love of this thing. But there's all these different personalities and different characters, and you know, some are shy and some are quite boisterous and things. What would you give to maybe one or two tips to give to a new whiskey club in order to help it succeed? Dumped you right in the spot there. I
know. I'm trying. You know, I think the way that we have new members coming along to our club, so. It's hard to think back, Roy, because we've been going for so long, but we'll invite people along to an event to say, you know, come along and see if you like us, and we can get to see that they're not mental, which, you know, you can invite people along and, you know, make sure, because you don't want...
Julie, we've all been to the whiskey festivals where the folk there, they genuinely love whiskey, but they're doing this and they're there to drink as much whiskey as they possibly can. Yeah. And they've not really had anybody show them that this is really, really powerful alcohol. It's really expensive.
That's not how to do it.
That's right. Yeah.
So I suppose because you want your whiskey club to be a thing that everybody enjoys, and if you end up with somebody that comes in and they're just stanking whiskey back and not, you know, having the same experience as everyone else, then that can kind of spoil it. So I suppose,
have a neat strategy in place
to
manage not bringing in volatility and disruption. That's basically it, right? Yeah.
And it's not always easy, and we've only ever been caught out once or twice. It's never in 18 years, you know, but all it takes is that one time for it just to be, people won't come back. They'll be like, you know, that's not for me. That's not the environment I want to be in. And it's not as one person or two people. So it's always good to invite people along. And I think the way in the very start, we put a poster up, or Alex put a poster up in the pot still in a whiskey bar and said, we're going to start a whiskey club in here. So if you find a good whiskey bar that's willing to allow you to come in and open your own whiskey. So Paul at the Bon Accord is so generous with us, like, and we've also got our second venue after we lost the other one, who we only got to go to their pub about 2 or 3 times, but they have to allow you to open bottles of whiskey. Yes. But if you imagine that every person that's coming along will buy something from behind the bar, then it works both ways.
It pays a little back on maybe a quieter night, that kind of thing. But again, on that idea of endearment, And because of the Whisky Club, I love the Bonaccord. I've got to know Paul and the team, the bar staff there, and just the vibe, the feel of the place. And it's like, you know, it's a place that I would feel very comfortable just rocking up on any night.
Yeah.
And it's that idea that it's kind of it's building that relationship there as well. I agree with you. Paul has been amazingly generous with barflies as well. It's a testament to, honestly, to our city and our country, but the guys that are behind bars like the Bonaccord, Paul and Thomas and everyone, and the guys that the Pot Still and everywhere else as well.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
So if you finding a good venue is essential, and people that are going to be welcoming of you and be happy for you to pour your own whiskey. And even if you have an agreement with them that you'll only have 3 or 4 whiskies, you know, like you've got to establish all that as well, you know. So if they see that you are actually a customer as well, they're not just facilitating you. Be welcoming, and you know, it's hard not to always just sit with your pals, which is a thing that we probably are quite guilty of at Glasgow. But the online thing has completely changed that. I don't think that will go back. I think we've all become a bigger gang since we've been online.
The breakout rooms have kind of forced us to mix it up a wee bit. And I was never like that. I would always kind of, sometimes, mostly because I'm late, but I would end up just kind of sitting at lots of different tables. But there did end up being kind of friendship groups that you would often see sitting together and things like that, which I guess is understandable and fine. But what was interesting, and a nice segue into Menno's question here, perhaps a question might be how to help make new members feel at home, especially if the regulars are basically people going way back.
Just being friendly. Really, that's like, I think there's an element of it that just comes as second nature. If someone comes in the door and you're just welcoming them, But
that seems to be your role, and I remember it from when I started. My very first night, you would come up, and it was Derek Nesbitt actually that you introduced me to, and you said, Derek, look after Roy, tell him what it's all about and things. And I was chatting away to Derek, but you were coming up to me and you were saying, how are you? You're right. Are you getting on okay? And things like that. And then you had a wee chat with me before I left at the end of the night and things. And it was nice to see you, Roy. Thanks very much. A wee handshake and away we went. That kind of thing. And it's that idea to say, aye, this is a nice place. We are nice people. We're kind of hoping that you're a nice person too. Because what you're doing, you're not trying to grow a club by just kind of saying who's interested in getting together to share whiskey. You're preserving something pretty precious now. Something that you've invested a lot of years in. A lot of the committee there, a lot of the founding members, a lot of the long-standing members have really built and invested a lot in the club over the years. I understand completely why you would want to take steps and measures to keep that culture, to keep that people who feel grateful that it's a privilege to have the membership. And I think that's what's managed to be achieved there. And that's come across in the virtual events. People are openly saying that. Can't I believe that the club's still going? Thank you so much. And you guys, hopefully you get the appreciation and thanks that you deserve for all that you do. Absolutely. I know it's hard work, Julie.
It's worth it though, you know. I mean, this is the thing. It's my job as well now, but it's my hobby. Like, that's the whiskey's the thing that's my passion in life. So to get to have a club of people that are essentially like each time is 35 of your pals on a screen at this point, but normally we're in the pub, it's, you know, can't beat it.
It's excellent. It's something, and you would encourage anybody to do the work at the beginning in order to try and make it happen. Bill is not being foolish. The guys down in Nottingham and the Midlands and everybody else that's doing a similar thing right across, they are putting their efforts into something that does pay back, right?
Of course, because see, apart from anything else, as a whiskey enthusiast, I get to try, without doing anything else, I get to try at least 12 whiskies a month, different whiskies, if you think about it like that, you know. You
would otherwise never have got close to on occasion.
Perhaps not. You
and
know,
it's not only the special stuff and the rare stuff and the cast strength and the single cast. Sometimes it's things that you would just ignore and walk past, and you think, "Oh, I've been wrong about this. This is actually really good."
Yeah.
It's excellent, Julie. I do consider it a privilege to be a member of your wee club as well. You mentioned that the OG of Whiskey YouTube was a Glasgow Whisky Club member as well, Ralphie.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Ralphie's one of the membership. I mean, he doesn't make it along to many nights now, but
no, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Aye.
He's not in the mainland, so
No,
he's here though.
right.
When he's in Glasgow, he certainly comes along and sees us. He's
That's
always in the bond, so you'll always see him in the record.
I also remember way back in the early days of watching Ralphie, he used to talk about this mystical Glasgow Whisky Club that he was a member of, and he was proud to be a member at the time as well. He spoke very positively of the things that we're talking about tonight. And I remember thinking back then, oh, I wonder what club this is.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Here we are.
And one of the folk, Julie, that managed to make it happen week after week as well. Honestly, I'm going to raise a wee glass to you. I didn't even ask if anything's in your glass, but imagine the amount of tastings and stuff that you're doing. Oh, yeah, superb. What's in your glass?
Do you know, I'm actually having a little dram of a US exclusive Portiskeag 18. It's the first time I've tasted it, and I'm using it at 2 a.m. So I thought I
there
was
you go. There's an 18-year-old Portiskeag exclusive coming your way, America. And Julie's got a glass just now. Fantastic. Julie, I'll raise this wee glass. Can you hang about and participate with us?
Of course. Of course.
Superb. Julie, I can't. One day hugs will be allowed.
I know.
And there's a big Julie-shaped hug coming to you from me. I'm missing you, and it'd be amazing to get together at the club soon. Julie, thanks for hanging out tonight. We'll be back in a wee while and we can enjoy the quiz together. Thanks, Julie. Thanks so much for everything that you do. Cheers. Amazing. Thanks to Julie. I'm definitely enjoying the fact that we've had a virtual thing to keep us going over the last year or so. But I am desperate for that wee cold pint in a Bonaccord. Sitting next to whoever I'm sat next to from the Glasgow Whisky Club and getting back to the before times. Whiskey Throttle is in saying, I want to be a member of all these clubs. Well, Daniel and Kenna, you are. Just by connection, you are. If you're ever travelling over here, buddy, I'm sure you'd be able to reach out to any of these clubs and be welcome in for a wee night as well. Mark Lambert is here. Good to have you, Mark, saying weird water noises in the background. Oh, is that from me or maybe from Julie's mic? And the distillery in question said would provide bottles. This is Matt going back to the distillery selling bottles thing. Said it would provide bottles for free for the tasting, but they also said that they would bring bottles and they expected to sell on the night. Too much pressure for us. I think I have to agree with you there. You can pick and choose your nights. And I think it was Jimmy Legg that mentioned, he said, he'd rather be in a club, there you go, I'd rather be in a club where members bring their own whiskey to share always. And I get that completely, Jimmy. And let's be honest, if we're all sitting on anything, like if we're all over accumulating, we all have whiskies that we can just say, hey, here's the theme tonight. Have you got anything that you can bring along? If not, maybe not tonight, next time, whatever it is, and just bring along a bottle. Set price limits, set expectations, manage expectations, all of that thing. Find ways to get together. I am forever grateful to a friend of mine, the WhiskyRev, who I spend every Wednesday night an hour. Occasionally there were other folk coming in, my friend from around the corner, Roberto Malmafioso, other characters would come in and have wee sessions, but generally it was us. Every Wednesday night for a long, long time. And that was kind of what started this and what made me realise that the amplification of fun and enjoyment you have, that connectedness of people through whiskey, when you share it, that's what it's all about. I want to say a wee shout out for my friend, the WhiskyRev. The WhiskyRev is still the WhiskyRev, but he's on YouTube now. He's only put 2 videos out now. But I'd like to all kind of surprise him. I'm going to drop a wee link into his, I think he'll be in bed now at this time. I'm going to drop a link into the lounge of the WhiskyRev's channel. For any blues lovers out there, the WhiskyRev is a big, big blues fan. And he's quite right that blues and whiskey does fit together quite nicely at times. And he's had a radio show on a Space Sound Radio for a long time now, doing a blues show and other things. But he's just started a YouTube channel. It's still called the WhiskyRev, but it's a blues channel. So if you've got a love of blues, I've dropped his link in. Drop a wee sub and leave a wee comment saying that you're missing him, and tell him that I'm missing him too. I'm hoping to see him, of course, over the summer. So he was originally the guy that when I first got together with, yes, I was evangelizing to anybody that would come to my house, honestly, with whiskey. I was bullying people into whiskey right, left and centre. But he was the guy when we got together, things really took wings. It was amazing back in the day. Jimmy Legg has just bought my wee dram, so said, isn't this a whiskey club, Roy? Aye, Jimmy, but it's free. And although it goes out at a set time, you're welcome to turn up late and watch it any time you absolutely like. But yes, Jimmy, and you are very much a fully paid up member of this wee whiskey club. Thanks for your dram, Jimmy Legg. Cheers to you. Now, I'm looking at the time and I can see that we're just about to hit the 2 hour mark. So we're not going to play a game of Visit a Speyside tonight. Sorry to let anybody down. I had a wee suspicion that that might be the case. What we're going to do now is just roll right into the amazing Menno and his quiz questions. And what that's amazing about that is that I get to be a participant. So I'm just as fearful as you are of ending up with a red face, or maybe this is the week that I won't make a pass mark or whatever it is. But remember that you're only playing against yourself in the quizzes, whether it's my quiz at the end or Menno's. It's all multiple choice. It's just for fun, and you only need to share your scores if you want to. Unless that is you're here live with us, in which case I'll ask you to tear off a wee sheet of paper, my guests in the background, and fold it into a shape so that we can all see an A, a B, and a C, and then we can all hold it up in sync. And we can play along and see how we got on with Menno's quiz tonight. I want to say thank you to everybody for staying with us till this time. But remember, I absolutely mean what I say, that if you have an idea of a gathering, whether it's just you and a pal, whether it's just a tasting group, whatever it may be, or whether it is something where you have an idea of an event, or you have a long-term plan of making a club because you think where you live could potentially have a whiskey club. Remember that I'm here to support it, and I'll do everything I can to help you see that it happens in the spirit of everything that this channel stands for, of course. Right, I've got my wee ABC thing ready, just as somebody's bought me a dram. Glenn Anderson in Nokia saying a dram for you, Glenn. Thank you so very, very much. I'm going to raise a wee glass of one of these sherry whiskies. Let's see if I can tell what it is. Absolutely. I think my favourite out of the three is still the Glenturret 12, honestly. I think it's fantastic. I think the Royal Brackla is a very, very good whiskey. A huge step up, very, very sherry forward, very rich compared to the old Royal Bracklas. And it's wonderful to have that natural presentation there. I mean, something that colour. Look at it. And they put natural colour. That's testament to some of the casks that's available to the industry just now, that they can put out core range products like that. Yes, you're paying a bit more for it, but honestly, if I was given the choice to pay a few more pounds or go along with the pallid 40% presentation and save myself £10 or something, I would go here. That's not me suggesting that everybody goes out and just puts out more expensive whiskey. No, but I do want to encourage natural whiskey. I think that that's what we're about as enthusiasts. And if we ask for 6% more whiskey in the bottle to get it at 46, it makes sense that it's going to cost a wee bit more. Whiskey Throttle is saying, new whiskey shelves club. That's as good as anything, Daniel. Absolutely. Let's raise a wee glass to Daniel and say thanks for your dram, my friend. Cheers to you. Isn't there an Alberta whiskey club? There must be loads of them out there in Alberta. Thanks very much, Daniel. Okay, let's roll into the quiz. Let's bring in... I don't need to share my screen tonight. It's Menno that's in charge for that. Let's bring in Menno. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very, very well. I'm very, very well. It's gone really fast again. I can't believe it's 2 hours. I've been telling people it's an easy one tonight. Now, normally when I do the quiz questions, I send it across to McAllen Fine and Rare, the doc, and he gives it a once over and he says, I think this is difficult. I think it's tricky. This is wrong. And he gives me, but you don't have that luxury, Menno.
Nope. I have to go with gut feeling. I think it's, I wouldn't say very easy, but I think it's doable for most barflies in tonight.
So the Menno suggestion tonight is that it's doable. Okay.
Whatever that means. Whatever that means.
On the subject of tonight's theme, there's Belgian barflies, right?
Yep. We've actually did organize a little meetup at the Ghent Whisky Festival last year, and that was early March, and literally not even a week later, lockdown struck. So it's been quiet on that front with the physical meetups, but there are plans to arrange something once the whole thing blows over. So I'm crossing my fingers for that one.
I'm thinking about Tom. I'm thinking about Carl. I'm thinking about who am I forgetting?
Era McFault.
How can we forget the Era McFault? Of course, I had a message from him just this very day. Okay, buddy, Anthony Dunsbot, Memories Drams, saying, look forward to sharing drams with friends soon. Love the channel for the education and the community. Had a great night here since I've found your channel. Hey, Anthony, thank you very, very much. I love having you very much part of it. Thanks for the dram, my friend. Cheers to you. Menno, you go right ahead and share your screen. I can see that you've done that.
Yep.
And I'll reach out to Julie. I don't think Bill's here. I think we've managed to scare Bill away, or he's been called into work. Let's see how this quiz is going to shape up tonight on the 13th of May. Unlucky for some, could be unlucky for me. You never know. Buddy, when you're ready, good luck, everyone. Good luck to me too tonight. And take it away, Menno. Thanks very much.
We'll start easy, I think. So
good.
Okay,
oh no, Bill is in. Sorry, I've realised that there's just so many windows open. There he is. Sorry, buddy. I don't StreamYard, but when there's so many windows, it drops down underneath, and the window's too small. I just did a wee check there, and I said, "Oh, there he is there." Sorry, buddy. Sorry, how could I forget?
Right.
Sorry, man. Continue.
No, okay. Question 1: the 225, 228, and 500 are numbers of the core range expressions of Tullibardine, but these numbers refer to what?
Excellent.
Are they the codes used in their warehouses? Are they B, the number of days the whiskey has spent in the finishing casks? Or is it C, the volume of the casks used?
I'm feeling confident. So, Menno, you guide us. You tell us when you want to hold it.
Okay, answers please in 3, 2, 1. We got an A. We got an A. Can't see Bill. I can't see Bill. I can't. Okay. And you, Roy, is a
C. I need to make it darker, don't I?
Okay. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It's the volume of the cask used in liters.
Now that's quite interesting, because it's a good little kind of, once you know that and you look at the Tullibardine range, then you've got a chance, you know, that it's a sherry butt for the 500. 228 is going to be a hoggy. 225 is going to be a barrel, that kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
If I understand well.
Okay, question 1, I think, is a freebie for some of us tonight. After 14 years at Diageo, Georgie Crawford was recently appointed the distillery manager at Isla's newest yet-to-be-built distillery. Who is building Isla's 10th distillery? Is that A, also Diageo, B, an independent bottler, or C, an investment group from the Philippines?
Two of us are confident about this one.
Okay. Can I have your answers, please? In 3, 2, 1.
No.
We've got a B, a lot of B's. All right, everybody's
It's correct. Like a hive in the lounge as well.
Indeed.
Absolutely full of bees.
Oh. So it's actually Julie's Elixir that's building a new distillery on Isla.
Yeah.
Ben Demon Hunter is saying he's biased and he wants to answer C, and he's put up a wee Filipino flag there.
There you are. I
reckon that's the only one I'm going to get right. So take
your point. Take your point. Bank it. Absolutely. Warner. He's saying good night, but he's not leaving, I don't think. He's on 2 out of 2. Lindsay Holmes on 2 out of 2. WhiskyRev 2 out of 2. Rob Gilmore 2 out. Lots of people on 2 out of 2. Superb.
Okay.
Menno, take it away, buddy.
Question 3. What do Balmenach and Rosail not have in common?
Ooh.
This could be a banana skin. Are they A, both are also producing gin? Is it B, that neither has an official bottling? Or is it C, they are both producing biogas on the side? So 2 of the 3 they do have in common, but one of these they don't have in common.
So one of these is they do not have in common. So that's, we have to get our head around that, okay? I'm nervous. I've just changed my mind.
Okay, answers in 3, 2, 1. C. All C's. Oh dear. Oh dear, indeed.
Could it be that
they are both producing biogas, and they neither has an official bottling, but only Balmenach is producing gin.
I did it the wrong way round.
I was sure. I thought Rosail. Is there a chance they could be making spirit that's going to be used in gin somewhere? And I thought maybe, and I just, oh dear, I changed my mind from A to C.
Damn it.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
I had the clue, so I gotta remember them up.
Moving on quickly then. Okay, another one on topic. Apart from having an awesome hobby, some whiskey clubs are also quite clever and inventive when it comes to choosing a name. Which of these abbreviations is used by an actual whiskey club? Is that A, swag, B, crown, or C, sword?
Oh.
It's used by a whiskey club. What do you think?
Oh. Okay, this is I don't know if it's a guess, but I'm ready. I'm ready when you are.
Okay, then please show me your answers as of now.
I feel like I have heard this club
an
on.
an A. Indeed, a lot of you are getting it right. It is SWAG, which stands for the Sussex Whiskey Appreciation Group. I just needed 2 other words with the letter W in it to make up that question. So,
well, sword was good because SW Scotch whiskey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, good.
Okay, question 5 is the picture question. What we see here is the largest bottle of malt whiskey in the world. But how big is it in fact? Is it A, 85.6 liters? Is it B, 105.3 liters? Or is it C, 228 liters? And if it helps, there is a regular sized bottle standing right next to it.
So
is
not
that genuinely a 70 cl bottle there?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. I've not seen this. This is on display at Tom and Tell, of course.
Yep.
Next week we'll have Ian Forteeth from Angus Dundee joining us.
I think they once tried to auction it off, but the winning bid wasn't high enough, I think.
Okay.
Answers, please, in 3, 2, 1. We've got A, C, C, A. Oh my.
Nobody going for the B in the middle?
No one going for the B in the middle, and you should have. It is 105.3 liters. The 228 liter is in fact the biggest bottle of Scotch, but that's a blend, and it's the famous Grouse big bottle.
So that's the biggest bottle of malt.
Yeah,
Got
indeed.
you. Got you. Nobody could lift it, says Graham Fraser.
Okay,
Superb.
question 6. Until well in the 20th century, up until the 1980s even, quality and character of malt whiskey was attributed to 4 factors. And these 4 factors were said to be what? Is it A, air, water, peat, and barley? Is it B, water, barley, stills, and location? Or was it C, water, peat, still, and casks?
This is interesting. This is very interesting.
So anybody confident about this one?
No.
Nope.
And
Or
believe it,
remotely.
I'm on a 50-50 run rate right now. 3 for 6. I am really, really struggling. Most of the lounge is ahead of me right now. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but I'm ready to get
for 4, so
Okay.
Oh wow.
Then please the answers in 3, 2, 1. We got a B, a C, and a B. Oh dear.
it's A.
Oh, dear. You would think indeed that locations and stills would play some part in how people perceived Scotch whiskey, but it was A, air, water, peat, barley.
Oh, Menno.
I'm sorry.
This one's doable.
Doable.
Yeah, if you make up the questions, it's fairly doable.
Yeah.
But that's it's an amazing. Sorry, Julie. Go.
I've got 2 out of 6. That's terrible.
But
Oh, sorry. Have we not answered 7? Oh, how have I marked myself down for 7?
I only have 5. I must have missed a couple. I wrote a couple.
Oh my goodness.
shall we go through it again?
Yeah. Scroll through. I'm hoping it's a Menno miscount, but it can't be because the last one was a picture.
Yep.
Yeah.
What?
1, 2, 3, 4.
What do you think to Menno's quizzes, Oscar?
Shocking. They're way too hard.
Hi, Oscar.
Hey, you're right.
I think what I've done wrong here is, and I can see what I've done wrong, but still, it doesn't help me. It doesn't mean there's any more right. It actually means I've only got 2.
Look at
Right.
1.
Oh my goodness. No, I've got 3. I'm good. Right, continue, Menno.
Okay. This might be easier as well, I hope. Vigil 2021 has been cancelled, unfortunately, but apart from music and whiskey, the festival also hosts a competition in what? Is that A, Gaelic singing, B, best folkloric outfit, or C, fly fishing?
Oh my goodness. What is folkloric?
Traditional?
Julie, have you ever heard the word folkloric? Or it's based on folklore then? Folkloric.
Yeah, folklore, yeah. Traditional,
Wow.
traditional clothing.
Folkloric outfit. Okay.
If it was papers, then I would.
Menno, this is your worst ever. This is not painful. This is painful.
I'm sorry, I thought it was fairly easy. Okay.
Anthony Dunn has literally bought me a dram so that he can say, I think these quizzes are detrimental to my health. Right, I'm ready to guess.
Okay, then please do. You got A, C, and
C. I was
C.
hoping Richard would hold up a B there.
And the answer's going to be
Okay, well done, Jewel. It's fly fishing.
Oh my goodness. I am on 3 out of 7. I may not even get a pass mark. This has never happened. The vPub won't be on next week if I don't get a pass mark.
Okay. Oops.
It's an asshat. Oh no.
Okay, the daddy of all whiskey clubs might well be the SMWS, but how old is it?
I've got a chance at this one.
Was it A, it was founded in the same year Dallas Do closed? Is it B, it was founded in the same year as Altavania? Or C, both are correct?
Feeling confident about this one. It doesn't get me a pass mark. It's still, this is only for me to get four.
Okay, answers please in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, Roy's put A. Oh, no. Oh.
Okay, all over the place. I can tell you.
Altavania was 75 or 72.
Absolutely, you're correct. And Dallas Do closed in 1983, as did a lot of distilleries. And that's the year the SMWS was founded.
Beauty.
I don't think I'll be coming back on after this quiz. I don't think I'll be coming back on.
I can't and I won't be the one responsible for there not being a vPub next week. So I'm rooting for you, Roy. I'm really rooting for you.
I need one more. There's 2 more left. I need one more for a pass.
Question 9. What is dross? Is that A, wet peat? Is it B, the solid leftovers from the mash? Or is it C, the beer-like liquid after washing?
Oh.
Should know this one.
I have huge anxiety over this one too, and I should probably know it. Thomas Elmer is saying Roy gets a bit competitive when the quiz is close. I do, Tom. I do. Stevie is saying I can just ban Menno from the chat entirely if you need me to.
I was just saying
one of the moderators is going to kick you out. Okay.
An indecent proposal from Steve. I would have expected nothing less. Okay, answers please.
Which one's the drift? Oh, no, the B.
Oh, all over the place, and nobody agrees with me. It's a disaster. What?
What?
Oh. You disappeared.
Yeah, I know. I was panicking. Did Steve do this?
Talk about cliffhangers.
Okay, I didn't see any of your answers, so I don't know.
I'll change it then.
Roy,
sorry.
Was that? Oh dear, it's wet peat. I'm sorry.
Oh. I thought there must be some other name that they're using. Dross is a Scottish word for anything that's just rubbish. Anything that's left over.
Solder dross from electronics is just
anything that's waste product after. So, but no, that's fair enough. Nobody refers to C as, I don't even remember what it was now. It was the leftovers after a wash, right? Oh my goodness. I'm on my last chance for a pass mark tonight. Menno, is it an ass hat for the final question? Of course it is.
Obviously. Okay, the lowlands are on the rise with 12 operational distilleries in a region that not that long ago struggled to have more than 2. However, 200 years ago, how many lowland distilleries were alive and kicking? Was it A, about as much as there are Speyside and Highland distilleries today? Is it B, more than double the amount of Speyside distilleries today? Or is it C, about as much as distilleries owned by the Big Four?
Oh my goodness.
That's hard.
Yep.
Do you see that wee icon down there, that wee logo, Julie? Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, this is brutal. This is pure guess territory we're in just now.
But think big. That's what I'll tell you.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm ready, but purely based on this stick thrown by Menno. I'm bounding after it like a crazed dog.
Okay, answers please in 3, 2, 1.
Whiskey Throttle Daniel is saying Aquavite.
BC.
This makes me want to start a whiskey fight club.
Hooray for the pass mark.
Oh,
Indeed, 150.
Damn it!
oh.
I've never been so relieved. Menno. You saved me. Dross.
Oh, yeah.
I think we put question 9 down to English as a second language. No, Scottish as a third language, perhaps.
Yeah. Okay.
Superb. Well, Andrew Pierce fell at the last. He fell at the ass hat at the end and got a 9 out of 10.
That's brilliant.
He managed a 9 out of 10.
Absolutely
Can I make this any better? There we go. It's a bit better.
Okay.
Graham Fraser is saying C at my 10th guess. Graham, how did you get on though? What was your score? 5 out of 10. A pass mark for Chuck Maltminion. 6 out of 10 for Matt 69. Good. Well done, Matt. Lots of people scoring way, way higher than me. Al on 6 out of 10. Whiskey Radar on 7. Jed 4. Bruno Martins 4. Mikey Hay 3. Mikey, I feel your pain, buddy. Good to see you in. Paul Tabernor is on 5. A pass mark. James Alsop, one of your fellow NWA members, is saying 9 out of 10. He's in shock. And Jimmy Jazz is on 3 out of 10 and complaining, and I don't blame him. When I meet Menno, says Jimmy Legg, I will hug him and then slap him in the face for a 4 out of 10. Oh dearie, it's brutal. Ben Devin Hunter is saying 0 out of 10. Well done, Ben.
Oh,
well
I feel better. I got 2 out of 10.
Yeah. Well done for getting a donut and admitting it, big guy. You are the hero tonight. You can take the laurels and the plaudits for the donut tonight. Does anybody else want to share their scores?
I got 4.
4. Oh, nearly a pass mark.
Nearly.
2-0. Richard?
I was very close to making a rude gesture, but there we go. Oh, there we go.
3. Oh, you made it. You made it past the rude roost. And can I say, sorry, is this your son?
This is Oscar, yeah. And I would have got 2 if it wasn't for Oscar.
Oscar, you're welcome back, especially if you're wearing one of the original.
Oh, of course, yeah. Got to represent the barflies.
Yeah, that's got to be about 3 years old, Oscar, right?
Oh no, vintage.
Yeah, vintage, absolutely. Well done for coming in and helping your old man as well, right at the end. Superb. Menno, that's why we invite you back time after time, because you bring a different spin to the quiz. You make it interesting. Some of these questions will make us pause and think. That's the best way I can dress it up, honestly. It was brutally difficult, but it's still good fun. I am obviously relieved. I do have some shame. I can only really call that a 4.5 out of 10 tonight because you did help me. Listen, everybody, thank you all so much for joining me tonight. I hope you've all had a wee bit of fun. I know I did. Julie, it's always amazing to have you on. You're a total tour de force around whiskey generally. But around these wee parts in Glasgow, it's brilliant to have you around. And it's great to have you behind the vPub as well. I'm so glad you could join us tonight. I wish you all the very best with your tasting at 2 a.m. in the morning. And also hosting the NWA boys for an Elixir event too. I think
absolutely.
Cool. I might even squeeze a wee invite for that one. You never know, right?
Yeah.
I guess Simon has gone home, Richard, right?
Yeah, yes, he has, but he's tuning in back at home as well.
Superb. Simon, thanks very much for tuning in back at home, and thanks for joining us tonight. Richard, Oscar, thanks to you two both for spending time with me tonight. I know it's quite late, but I'm very, very grateful to you both, and I wish you all the very, very best with NWA. Anything I can do to help you in the future, you know I'm more than happy to do that. Menno, you're always a star. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking all the pain from everybody that you're inevitably going to get. And Jerry Miller has actually bought me a dram to say thanks, Menno.
Thick as an elephant skin.
Yeah, he's saying thanks, Menno, for my first non-pass in months. And Anthony Dunn is saying, I know nothing about whiskey. I'm off to craft beer. You're actively driving my audience away, Menno. And Stevie is saying, makes us stop and think about painful things to do to Menno. Menno, I know you've got very thick skin, and I'll have nobody saying anything. I invite you to host these really, really painfully difficult quizzes. That's exactly what you're here to do. Bill, thank you so much. I know you've burned the middle of your day, your lunch, and knocking on to tea time, I guess, now. But it's a special privilege for me to be able to hang out with you in this environment as well. Because what we're doing is we're connecting lots and lots of new friendships here. Lots and lots of people that otherwise, as Julie and I talked about, we wouldn't have been able to meet. But we can still celebrate our long-term friends, the friends that we've been with for a hell of a long time, like 3 decades, buddy. How about that, right? And bring each other into whiskey and enjoy it together, old friends and new together. I think that's what it's all about. I'm going to raise this wee glass of my Teaninich and say thanks to all of you for hanging out with me in another vPub. Please stay till after the credits roll if you can. If you're busy and you need to slip off, I understand, no worries. But genuinely, heartfelt thanks to all of you. Cheers. Sláinte.
Cheers.
Good night, Menno. Good night, Julie. Good night, Oscar and Richard, as he says he's thrown it back. And Bill, WhiskyDisciple. Good night, buddy. I'll see you soon. Wonderful stuff. Of course, Steve Atkins is saying, cheers, Menno, and cheers, Roy. Menno, I can't wait to see you. There are some humorous tongue-in-cheek threats flying around. WhiskyRev is saying, thanks for the shout-out earlier. I only realised when I got notifications of new subscribers. There you go, buddy. It's so good to have you in. I thought you'd be in bed. I waited till this time, and so that you wouldn't get to know about it. There's the WhiskyRev's YouTube channel. So if you're interested in blues music, he's now bringing blues music through his YouTube channel as well. And Graham, I wish you the very, very best with it, my friend. You deserve it. I think you'll be smashing at it too. Glenn Anderson has bought me a dram to say, for Menno. Absolutely, Glenn. Thank you so much. I think that Menno does deserve. If I could buy myself a super chat, I would buy Menno a dram as well. I'm very, very grateful for him coming in and providing us with us. What's genuinely entertaining for us all. I think I have beads of sweat. I was so terrified of a really, like a donut, like not even a pass mark. In fact, I've barely scraped a pass mark with help from Menno tonight. But it's all fun. Nobody is ever going to know it all, especially when the questions are shaped like that, right? I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some fun out of it as well. As I said earlier, next week we're going to be joined by Ian Forteith from Angus Dundee. And Ian and I are going to be talking about the evolution specifically of malt whiskey. And we'll be kind of using the lens of Angus Dundee and his experience. He's just been appointed that he's creating whiskies for Angus Dundee now as well. Obviously, Robert Fleming is still there to do the distillation side and fill the barrels. But when it comes to the whiskey in the barrels and the whiskey that's made from that, it's now in the hands of Ian Forteith now. But Ian's a super, super passionate whiskey geek at heart. And when him and I were talking about various things in whiskey, we kept going back into talking about how things have changed and what's changed it and things. So we came up with this fantastic, interesting angle to look at things and talk about the evolution of malt whiskey. That's next week, a week from tonight. I'm looking forward to welcoming Ian Forteith behind the vPub bar. What a wonderful night I've had hanging out with all of you guys and all my friends here behind the scenes as well. It's always amazing and an absolute privilege to hang out with you. I hope you do join us next week. But in the meantime, let me raise this wee glass just to say you're all very, very dearly loved. Thank you all. I'll see you next week. And Sláinte mhath. Cheers. I've never been so grateful for a 5 out of 10 in my life.